Mr. Vaughn?
Yes.
Mr. Meeker?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Rainwater?
Yes.
Tedford?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you very much. Recognitions and acknowledgements. I don't think we have any, but we have guests. Thank you all for being here tonight. Also, I don't think that we've got any new champions in the city, do we? I mean, that's unusual for Greenwood not to have a new champion.
Actually,
Unless you know.
national champions.
Oh, the cheerleaders.
Cheerleading
Yeah,
team.
that's right. National, not local, not state, but national. That's all. I saw that. So congratulations. We need to have those ladies come down and do a little cheer for us or something for us sometime, sing a song or something. So kudos to those ladies and maybe gentlemen on there. I'm not sure. So committee reports. I don't see Kenny here tonight. Did we get his in finally or not? We did? Okay.
Yeah.
Boys and Girls Club, SRCA, Parks Commission, Water Wastewater Commission. If anytime you don't see what you need to know about any of those, as I've said in the past, let Danielle know or myself, and we'll get those reports to you. Sometimes they come in a little late, so just let us know. Citizen Forum, we have 3 signed up this evening. And so what we'll do, we'll get right into that. If you'll come to them, I'll call your name. If you'll come to the podium, state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes to talk to the council. Tammy, pause. I'm sorry. I said I'd call your name. I'm sorry.
If you would tap that microphone, make sure it works.
Yeah, can you pull the whole thing
I don't
down?
think it's on.
Tom may. Thank you, Tom.
I'm Tammy Paulsa. I live at 38 Easley Loop, and I was just wondering if you might have an update on that.
Yeah, not much, unfortunately. I did call you back and it just went to voicemail, so I don't know if it just didn't
Oh,
get to
I'm
you.
sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. I just want to make sure you didn't know I was ignoring you. I'm encouraged, kind of, but not so much encouraged that at least it is on the list over at the street department. I went over and looked at it myself. They are waiting on some engineering, which is associated with where you need or your concern is all the way back down to Center Street. So we have engineering group looking at that. Jeff is not here tonight, street department director, to opine on that, but it is certainly being looked at. I've asked Jeff if we couldn't just go over and dig a little of that ditch out on our own. Sometimes you can do that and get away with it. Sometimes you harm more than what you're fixing.
Right.
So certainly it's on the list.
Okay.
I don't have a date for you, but as soon engineering these days is rather slow sometimes, getting things figured out, but I'll make sure we find out.
Okay. I
The
appreciate
same
it.
issue, I'm assuming,
Yes.
running across Denver, across
Yeah.
on all the way down. Okay.
Yeah.
And I know we went down and curbed that a little bit for you or for the neighborhood and did a little, I don't know what you call it. Yeah, a little trench thing off of the curbing itself. And has that helped at all?
It does, but when we get a hard rain,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm the only driveway, all that mud.
Yeah.
It just ends up, all down my driveway.
Okay. Okay. We'll find out what we can find out, and don't hesitate to call me tomorrow, maybe later this week,
Okay.
and just see where we are, what I found out.
All right.
Okay.
I appreciate
And
it.
leave not to get personal with you, but does your voicemail work all the time? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't
Okay.
get it.
I even left my name.
Huh, I hate
I don't-
that.
Okay.
Yeah, it normally
Okay.
works.
Okay.
And I did talk to Jeff. Jeff
Oh, you
did
did?
call me.
Okay.
It's been several months ago.
Right.
And he told me, that it's moving.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then of course I got excited.
Sure.
And
Meeting the next day, it should be.
yeah. But anyway, and then he did call me back and he said, like you said, the engineering, and that takes some time.
And that's not really a put off. It really does. I mean, you can look at these directors and those, engineering is behind, but we'll see what we can find out.
Okay.
And if nothing else, I'll make a kind of a commitment to you. If I can get the engineer to tell me that it wouldn't hurt to do what I'm thinking about doing up across the street from you.
Yeah.
As a temporary fix, we'll try that.
Okay.
I'll get some professional opinion on that.
All right.
All
I
right?
appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, next we have Tom and Lori Ransom. And Kara. It's a trio.
Okay, so Tom and Lori Ransom. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Okay. We live on Excelsior Road. And Kara, what street do you live on? She lives in Shadow Lake.
Just
So
address, if you don't mind, just for the record. So we got it. I got, thank you.
1200 Excelsior Road.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. So each of you, I left a copy of this and a copy of this and our barn cat program. Okay. And I know at the last meeting, Kara kind of had a tough act to follow. So I don't know whether you guys really heard anything she had to say, because it was like well, y'all know what it was like. So I'm here to follow up on the email I sent. And I don't know, I got a reply to Mr. Terry. This was attached to the email. So I don't know, did you all get this email?
I don't remember seeing it. I don't know.
Well,
Did I? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
She's my email.
okay. Did the council members get the email? Okay, because y'all don't have Greenwood City email, so I thought that was kind of weird. So it seemed kind of weird to me. But anyway,
I think it's weird.
do what?
I think it's weird too. Go ahead.
Okay, well, out of curiosity, why?
Well, we kind of do. It just goes to, it's forwards to our personal.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you go to the website and click on my name, I'm sure
Oh,
it's how
I
you
just
got.
copied email addresses is what I
Oh,
did.
okay.
So, because I wanted to
You
send
can
it
go to the
on.
website and click my name. There's an email there and you clicked it, it'll send it
It'll
to.
go.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
The
not
forwarding
listed
thing.
as a city.
Okay. Okay. So anyway, about the TNR program, okay, we all know about that so far. And any questions that you all have with the inclusion in the animal ordinance. And I hope you had a chance to read all that. This is a sample ordinance that I have here. It's a rough draft. It doesn't have any legalese in it or anything like that because I'm not a lawyer. So I looked at many, many cities in Arkansas, and I've only 2 or 3 had any type of programs like this for the cats. They just fall off the face of the earth. There's just no. So anyway, the community's response, I've posted a few times on Hey Greenwood, you know how that goes sometimes in there, but they've been really supportive and encouraging. Many have donated money for the TNR, for the surgeries, and for supplies that we need. 40 what? Oh, yeah. And we have at least 45 on a list to be done. Yeah. Yeah. So I believe the citizens of Greenwood think that this is a program that's worthwhile and it's needed. So for the month of January, we TNR'd and returned 8 cats to their original homes. We rescued 2 cats from an abandonment situation. One has since been adopted and one is in foster home. 3 kittens have entered foster care and 5 sick kittens have been taken out of their environment and are being treated. Yeah, they were. They were. So now keep in mind, like I said, we have 45 on our list to do, and we just don't have, we only do these spay and neuter clinics a couple times a month. So it's kind of hard to get them all in there. Let's see. Now, I know some people are asked, if I've had community people asking, what can we do this? Can we do that? We're not a shelter. We don't facilitate adoptions except for barn cats. We don't have the resources to care for the sick or injured cats. That's why the kittens were taken to, where were they taken? The Artemis Project for medical care.
Technically, the Artemis Project, but someone who volunteers for them. That's how I got the name of the person who knows about.
Right. Yeah. So we have connections so we can get these things done. Additionally, now some people think we just nilly-willy trap out there cats. We don't do that. We have to have permission to the property we're at. And, if they trap a cat that's like we were looking for a mama cat that was a gray cat, we trapped a ginger cat. That wasn't our cat we were looking for, so we let it go. So we don't trap neighbors' cats or anything like that, just so everybody's, clear on that. Now, the city of Greenwood, you don't have any outlet program for these cats within the city. Animal control doesn't really offer any services that I'm aware of or that I read in the animal ordinance. I mean, I don't know if she picks up stray cats or I don't know what she does, Yeah, no. Okay, that's what I thought. So there's nothing for the cats. And certain provisions in the existing animal ordinance create obstacles to implementing a successful TNR program. So we need to address that if this is something that we can agree and vote on. Now, one of the example of the challenges the city is facing is in your neighborhood, Mayor. You know your neighborhood.
This is my cat.
No, you know the large neighborhood that,
Yes. Yes.
you know that neighborhood. Okay, so that's where the 5 sick kittens came from. I personally know of at least 20 that need to be spay and neutered. And that's not even looking under the hood.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you know that neighborhood.
We actually have a cat that's been with us now for about 4 years who ended, that's how it
So
It
you
was a
know
kitten
that.
of the litter. So.
Yes. So how that is. I think we all can agree that this issue was created over time, and it was created by the community itself, whether it be from lack of education, people not spaying and neutering their pets, allowing them to roam free, and stuff like that. And also the dumping of the litters. That's a big issue too. Now, another problem can be the high cost of spay and neuter services in town. And I think we all have been to the vet and know how much they charge. I actually called, and the average cost for the 3 clinics in town is $177 for a female and $121 for a male. And that's kind of high. And a lot of people just can't afford that. There is kitties and canines, which they charge $50. However, you still have the thing, people can't drive all the way to Fort Smith, take their time off work and things like that. So I don't know, maybe something can be done to getting that cost down. Maybe the city can talk to kitties and canines and work out a program, like a voucher program. I know Fort Smith has one. So maybe Greenwood could do that. I don't know. Maybe get a program going here for having maybe once a month, maybe one of the vets doing a low cost spay and neuter program or something. I don't know. There's just ideas. Now we've also launched the barn cat program. You guys have that there because we have cats they can go to. There's an adoption fee for that. And that's for, the cats that don't have any place else to go. In other words, the property owner wants them gone. So instead of, euthanizing, that's an option. Now I understand, I know the mayor had an issue with the name Greenwood TNR. That some people may think it could be linked to the city. But there's also many businesses with the name Greenwood. You're just not. Facebook page clarifying that we are not associated with. So I hope that is satisfactory with y'all. Yeah. Okay.
I'm good. The city attorney may have a different opinion.
Okay.
That makes sense to me. And
Okay. Well, I mean, there's Greenwood Tire, Greenwood
Sure,
Flowers,
absolutely.
Greenwood Pharmacy,
absolutely.
So, I mean, and we are in the process of obtaining our 501c3 status, and you know how those wheels turn. So, and we provided you copies of this book, which it has a lot of information in it. You already have a copy.
I did. I got it
Somewhere.
last time, I think.
Yeah, somewhere. But it has a lot of information you probably don't want to read, but it has background on TNR and has some statistics and what doesn't work and stuff like that. That's really all I say. If there's any questions, and I know we have a meeting with you on Wednesday at 3. So,
But we know the ordinances need to be. You want to know that at a meeting or?
One of my requests was that, and I'm sure you already have, if you have our ordinance.
yes, I do.
So I would just ask that you make yourself as familiar as you can with that, with the meeting. And I'm not sure that Mr. Plummer is going to be able to attend that, doesn't necessarily have to. But yeah, so we just need to get on. I mean, let me say this publicly. I think it's amazing what you do with the spay and neuter program. I mean, obviously to control the cat population, that's how you go about it.
Mhm.
I voiced a couple of opinions or concerns. One was the name,
Right.
which I hear what you're saying. That makes sense to me, especially if you put something on your website. The other was the feeding in groups if I have my facts right. And we'll figure this out at our meeting. This would be a good conversation. But
I would have I would have extremely strict rules on the feeding because it irritates me to no end
Yeah.
to see
we-
food thrown out on the concrete. It
Yeah,
just drives me crazy.
that's our problem.
Yeah, that's my
And
problem
we
too.
we don't do anything, as you asked a while ago. Our animal control officer does not do anything with the cats. 'Cause
Right.
We don't have a place to put them.
Right.
And the kennel that we use does not take cats. So,
No.
we can
Yeah.
gather them up, and then what do? We don't have that option necessarily, but I just want to make sure that we're doing the best we can and working with you guys. I'm all in. I want to make this a workable thing. So I'm not saying I agree with everything necessarily, but
Right.
you don't agree with our ordinance, sounds like. So,
Well, it's
Just-
criminalizing compassion is what it's doing because you wouldn't believe there's probably about 90 to 95% of these cats are being taken care of at private residences.
well,
So-
here's my quick one, and I'll let you go because you've already done your time. And I don't want to make it harder on the council necessarily because they're not necessarily prepared. But I guess the people that are feeding the cats in town, and this may be what you're talking about, we do get a lot of calls from neighbors of people that feed cats, and so they feed them, and then they're in their yards doing
I
doing
get
what
that.
cats do.
Yeah.
So then you can't change the attitude of a cat, I don't guess.
No, well, you can somewhat if you spay and neuter them.
Sure.
That
well,
helps.
that would-
That certainly helps.
that would
But
change
yeah,
my attitude. Sorry. Sorry.
yeah, I certainly
Okay.
understand that.
All right. Well, I look forward to the meeting. I think,
Okay.
And we've got that scheduled. Do you know how many people are coming? You guys? I'm not trying to prepare one. I need, no, I'm just kidding. 3's good. That's very, I appreciate that. So we can sit down and talk about it.
Okay.
Questions from council, comments?
I like your document. I was just wondering, just a suggestion, there, because you're talking about trapping, neutering and releasing, to kind of pull out the neutering, make that your C, because you have B, trapping. And then
Like I said, I'm not a lawyer. The legalese and the markings and the numbers.
And then C will be the neutering, and then the D, because is returning the cats to go home,
Yeah. Okay.
And so just kind of make those 3 headlines,
Okay. So that was a formatting question.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just a format question, but
Okay. Like I said, that's just a rough draft. It's just stuff I pulled together.
Yeah.
So
Mr.
yeah.
Plummer advised me that he can be there for that meeting. So that'll be good for him to say, hey, this is what our ordinance means. I mean, I got it. I read it, but I'm not an attorney either. So
I'm not either. I've read it and gone through and that last page stuff that I did find that
Yeah.
might, hinder it. Okay.
you need to say anything? Nope. Yes, sir.
Oh, so what do we, in some of these areas, like you mentioned Taco Bell or some place like that, what do we have in our relationship with Taco Bell that allows us to make sure that those are secure? There's not food left around?
What do we have in place to make sure?
Well, I mean, we regulate lots of things.
It technically, and
Okay. First of all, if I can interrupt just for a
Yeah, go
second.
ahead. Yeah.
The property behind Taco Bell does not belong to Taco Bell. It belongs to Jaegers. And I have talked to Jaegers, or he's talked to Jaegers, and we do have permission to perform TNR on those cats at Jaegers.
Is that your question about those
No.
cats or about just any cats?
I'm just speaking of cats need food and they're going to congregate around restaurants. So
Oh, well,
what
yes,
can we
they do.
If you're talking about cats getting into a trash receptacle, then
Well, to cut to the chase, we don't have a lot of anything because we don't have anything. There's nothing to do with them. We don't have a place to take them, or we haven't found a place to take them.
I'm not
Now,
talking about the
if-
cat. I'm talking about
Regulating the
if
business.
The business?
if a business, a restaurant has a receptacle
Yeah.
and it's not secure.
Oh,
or
well,
not
we
in
can,
a state
I
of
can tell you
repair.
there's a few in town that are not secure.
yeah, for sure.
So that needs to
We
be
can address
one-
that for sure, yeah.
that's part of that.
Yeah.
Another part is there's a difference between somebody who decides they're just going to be friendly and feed a cat versus someone who's going to work with you all
Mhm.
in the TNR. And I would think that there still should be penalties for people who are doing it without,
A purpose.
a purpose. Yeah.
I would say to that, to fix that or end that or to work on that would be maybe just a thought is when we get those calls from Mr. Smith, who lives beside Mr. Jones, and Mr. Jones is feeding, and Mr. Smith doesn't like it, we give you their information or say, hey, if you want to feed these cats, that's awesome. But here's a program that will help you know how to do that.
A lot of people
Our
feed them.
ordinance strictly, I mean, if I'm pretty sure if you feed a cat, it's yours.
See, and that's something that would have to change too.
Yeah.
That's something we'll have to discuss.
Well, I talked to a woman yesterday and she had a problem with a cat that got injured and I guess she called the police. I don't know what she did, but a policeman ended up being there and they said, well, you feed it, it's yours. And she's like, so most people don't know that. I did read that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good discussion. I mean, that will be good for good discussion.
Yeah.
And Doug,
Okay.
the
Yes, sir.
last thing
Yep.
is, there's language in our home-based business ordinance that discusses, if you're going to have a home-based business, it cannot affect the character of the downtown. So anything that you all do in terms of like a sign that says this is a, TNR sting operation or whatever, just the impact of what you all do in an area needs to be seamless on the neighborhood.
Oh yeah.
So that,
Stealth. You need to be in stealth
I-
mode.
We
But-
have no idea.
No, I
You
know.
haven't-
You're right.
You don't know. Y'all don't know what's out there.
but I'm
You
just
really
saying
don't.
that home-based business ordinance has some good language in it to talk about the impact on a neighborhood.
Yeah, there's a lot to work on and a lot
Oh, yeah.
to figure out. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't, envision seeing, catios out everywhere, and I don't see that. No. Those type of cats aren't going to be in there anyway.
Okay.
So, okay.
I
All right.
was wondering, do you have a lot of interest of people saying, yeah, I have
Oh, yeah.
a country home or I have a barn that,
Not
with the-
yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
Just 2. And we delivered 3 cats to one, and the other person, we have to follow.
I'm
you're
one.
one of them.
And well, 3 counting you.
Yeah.
You got a barn across the street. Well, it's kind of a shed. That's not yours, but the guy across the street. Maybe he needs a cat.
Well, yeah, I actually
Bob,
thought about
Mr.
that.
Ross.
We thought about
I
contacting.
thought about that.
They already have 4 or 6 barn cats in and out interested necessarily in mixing more, but I've got some friends asking other country friends, so I think eventually we'll, because right now we do have 2 locations that could use, we really need to move some cats out of. So
And I think you probably know of one.
I would encourage you to talk to Chief Brian. I can't talk him into a Dalmatian, so maybe a cat
There you go.
or 2 or 3. A fire cat. There you go. It's a spokesperson or a spokescat. All right.
Okay.
Thank you guys
Is
very
that
much.
it? Okay.
Look forward to our meeting.
All right.
Thank you. Next on the list, Mr. Lloyd, you're now negative 2 minutes. So, yeah, well, 15.
My name is Buddy Lloyd. I live at 305 Twisted Oak Way, East Village subdivision. This is not going to take me long because I'm requesting the city council to, before you get to the number 1 unfinished business, I would like you to consider if you're going to introduce something that's not on the agenda, unless it is something for emergency, the health and welfare of the community. Charlotte does a really good job of publishing what you guys are going to be voting on. Let the public know what you're going to be voting on before you vote on it. So if you introduce something as a citizen, I'm asking that you introduce it to the council for discussion only. And then that way it can be brought up and put on the agenda for the next week. I'll give my time to somebody else. I got to go show a house.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Makes sense.
Council, did you want to respond to that?
Makes sense.
I think that, yeah, I would think that anything that we do bring up, we wouldn't enact an emergency clause or something. We might start with a first reading, but we'd never, I try to avoid unless, like I said, it is just a dire emergency.
All right, perfect. Moving on to the financial report, Mr. Marsh.
First, I want to thank Casey for providing a workable microphone today. He worked very hard on that. He was here for a couple hours making sure we could log it in. Second, I want to thank Charlotte for the stand, so I don't have to.
I'm glad you can use
hold
it.
it. So that was rather a nice surprise.
I allowed them both to do that for you.
Thank you, David.
So,
You deserve it.
Thanks.
thank you.
There you go.
We don't have the bill yet. Casey hasn't billed us.
That's true.
Okay, so this is the tax revenues from January. This is the distribution in January from the collections in November. So you're looking at, we budgeted 2025, 3%. The actual year-to-date cumulative growth, 25 over 24, was a negative 1.45%. So we're actually cumulative growth above budget, we're below budget by almost 4.5%. Contrary to that, though, similar to what was happening last year in reverse, the county sales tax revenue budget anything as far as growth was concerned. We budgeted flat, and we ended up for that same period of collections as a distribution, 1.51%. It's kind of in reverse of what we've been seeing. So as far as those numbers are concerned, I'll do the deep dive and give you that next month. In the March meeting, I'll show you exactly what was behind those numbers and what made that actually do a reversal. As far as the advertising and promotion tax revenues, we had a budget of 4%. The cumulative A&P for the fiscal year 25 right now was for January 6.99%, which is what we received through the month of January as far as collections in December. As far as A&P tax growth, that's a 10.99% change or swing right now that we're going to have to recover from. I'm not indicating that that has anything to do with a slowdown in the actual purchase of fast foods or prepared foods throughout the city of Greenwood. It's more that we're seeing more of a slowdown in the actual remittance time for them to turn in their monies. More and more, it's crossing over to the next month before we get the remittance from the previous months. That seems to be, and a lot more of that is coming from the dollar remittance people, remittance businesses. So we'll watch that. We had the same thing kind of happen, and we ended up right on budget at the end of the year last year, because they do a good job of making a push to make sure these people that are somewhat delinquent or behind catch up before the end of the year. But remember, the budget is based on the 4%, and that has a lot to do with what A&P is going to be able to distribute when they have their grant meetings. As far as how that looks, this is the picture from January of 2017 all the way to 2025, and what the change over the previous month is. 5.52% was an anomaly in 18, and it dropped to a negative. We've had two periods where it was January started off on the downside. The actual 0.34 negative for the year ended up, but that's when we were running about an average of 3% per year growth. This was the anomaly years, the 2021 during the COVID. And then it dropped down in 22 to 10.73% January over January. And then, as you see, it went 8.27 last year. Though we started with a 0.87 and we ended up still well ahead of budget. Down 1.5. I'm looking at potentially somewhere in the 5 range. We're at 4.5, or no, 3% is what our budget is for 2025. So anything above that, little too early to panic, but that is something I do want to take a deeper dive on. I want to know why that number was that. And that's the county sales tax. You see the 1.51. It was 218,000 collection over 215,000 from the previous year. We did budget, however, and that's what the operations of each department at county sales tax is budgeting and working from as far as their expense. But I like a lot of cities report combined sales tax. They say what they're doing, and then they take the city and the county and report it in this fashion. So if you did that, this would be the individual Januaries over Januaries, and you see in 2017, our combined was 328,000. We're at $500,000 now in 2025, January over January. But this was a 0.2% drop, and that's where we are starting the year combined. Now, the reason that I don't like to report those combined is because there are different purposes for the city sales and use tax than the county. So if I great, but however, when you parse them out, the county monies are being used more to support the O&Ms of various departments, more so than the city sales and use tax, which is supporting 4. So, well, it's supporting a bond and 3 other departments. So just wanted to pass that along. That's why I like to report them differently. They have different purposes. As far as the advertising and promotion, there is something I do want to point out we didn't talk about at the last meeting, and it has to do with the total prepared food sales. So in 2018, you take the number that we get, and this is an estimate that we come up with based on 1% tax. All you do is take the number that we received for the year and divide it by 1%. That's about a $12.9 million total prepared food sales from all the combined tax remitters. And now we're at 22 million. So you see the growth in the dollar amount of sales. You got to remember too that you got to factor inflation into that, because inflation, you're paying more for the product, and as you pay more for the product, it parlays into more in the tax. So, and then the average monthly sales of 1.8 million, and the year growth was 6.3, and we budgeted about 5%, I think it was. So it ended up fine. This 16.9 is more so a late remitter issue than it is anything else. So we'll be watching for how many come in the next few days that are actually still paying in December's monies. The cash flow, this was our year-end balance of 2025, 17,053,000. Decrease of cash flow of 438,000. We're down to 16,615. 16,615,000. That's a 2.5% reduction in our fund balance. You do realize that number is actually quite low compared to where we would be. However, we didn't pass the budget until the end of January. You're going to most likely start seeing some of the projects still being worked, monies factoring into that. Well, we have an item on the agenda coming up later, which is moratorium on the 90. We need some clarification on that. As far as the capital is concerned, there has been very little spending. In January, we only had $103,000 spent on our $14,901,000 as it stands today approved budget. And that's a 0.7% spend on capital for projects that are committed. And that's it.
Questions for Mr. Marsh? I'd like to take a moment, talk about something that's financially important to the city. I've noticed lately I've seen lots of comments and or statements regarding our new senior citizen center. And the most frequent is that we've spent over $1 million to remodel a facility or to purchase a facility. Indeed, the city used ARPA money, and I would like Tom to expound on the ARPA funds, how that worked and how we used it and why we used it for that particular project. The purchase price of that building was not $1 million. It was near that. It was a little over $800,000, which was bought and paid for with ARPA money. The remodeling of said building is a $500,000 AEDC grant, non-matching grant. So tax money from some time at some point, yes, but not city sales and use tax by any means from the city of Greenwood. No citizen had to come up with any money to purchase building and to remodel the building. I want to make that very clear. I've made it clear several times, but it seems to be out there all the time, one venue or another, that's how that happened. And I told you that's exactly how it happened. So any questions, comments about that? And by the way, it's coming along very nicely. I don't have a report to give you as far as pictures goes, but it is looking beautiful. Lisa Moore, who is the director of the center, is anxious. She stopped by there the other day and took a look at it herself. The flooring's down, the walls are painted, The kitchen's being fitted with equipment. Chief was out there today for a smoke test on the Ventahood. I know sunny May opening for Mr. Cohey. So it's coming along very nicely. So I think it's going to be something the citizens are proud of to have and to own. And I know the seniors that utilize that facility are excited to be in it. So just wanted to get that out. Next, we have agenda additions. Yes, sir.
What is the situation with the water right now?
What water?
Out
Out there? We're not required to. Are you talking about the sprinkler and all that stuff?
Yeah.
As you heard the fire marshal, we're not required to do that.
And I, I mentioned I don't see really eye to eye on that.
He's the fire marshal, but go ahead.
Well, he's the fire marshal, absolutely.
Mhm.
But you're saying in essence, I don't have to do that if I don't add any square footage.
Right.
So I still think you need to do what code would say you should do to that building. I mean, I understand we're not adding square footage, therefore we don't have to. We're the city.
I am all for adding sprinkler system that will require the Water Wastewater Commission either put a hydrant across the road, for it, coming across the highway and supplying a bigger line to do that, or as I've said in the past, coming from the city limits of Greenwood to the center, which I think is imperative that someday we do it. I get ridiculed for planning ahead and trying to say that we ought to grow that because that's going to be a new gateway into Greenwood. So I'm all for what you're suggesting. The issue is the cost of it. And if the Water Wastewater Commission will allow that to happen, and I told them that in the council too, let's do it.
Okay, so when you're talking about, and I realize I'm Johnny come lately to this, but when you're talking about land use, the land use along 71 should attract the type of usage that can afford to build that out for us. I mean, the development is supposed to pay for the cost of the infrastructure. And so we have a facility out there that
Is ours.
is ours.
So who would pay for
It's-
that? We're the developer.
Well, and that's part of my issue is in terms of appropriate land use, that's probably not the best land use. And
If I may,
I-
Mr. Tedford, you are very late to the show and this is already done. We own it.
I understand
We're
that.
remodeling it and we're going to move into it. If there was an argument for the correct use of the land, that should have been happened before we bought it.
Well, provisions then and decisions made on water probably should earlier too.
The building is okay as it is. By the way, this is not a residence. No one's sleeping in this facility. These folks are not in wheelchairs. They can
Right.
come and go.
Maybe some naps.
There could very well be some naps, absolutely, but no one is spending the night. So it's not a rest home. It is if I may,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a 3-4 hour a day for their activities and their meals, and they're gone. I hear what you're saying, but that's a discussion to be had before it was purchased and bought.
And it's one we'll have
Unless
on down the line.
Sir?
It'll be one we'll have on down the line too, because water is, will have to go
and
out.
the idea, I am all in. I said that many times. If the city wants to spend the money to get it there, because we are the developer now. I'm not suggesting that we stick it out. And by the way, and I said this too, by the way, and I'm sorry, you hit a nerve. We are at a point, a junction, where we're going to grow one way or the other, or we're not. And so I've never condoned, as I have read in a local thing, that I'm trying to pay and get water and sewer out, and we pay for it for the developer. And you can read the opposite of that, but it is absolutely untrue. Do we get it there? If we can, we did it for Tractor Supply and we got paid back. we will get paid back for all of this eventually. A senior citizen center is not going to create any sales tax revenue. We know that. I'll throw the curve in because that's the curve is Brahms is going to open, and much to my dismay of reading an article one day, it is absolutely going to produce sales tax. The comment was it won't get built and it won't produce any sales tax unless Brahms giving away their hamburgers. That is absolutely false. So I guess my question to you, sir, is what's your point? How do you fix what you're saying?
Well, what I'm saying is the city really is not a developer. I mean,
When I say developer, we own a building.
we own a building.
Who would we
and-
stick that on to put water out there?
But you're not going to generate any tax revenue
I just said
from
that.
extending the water out there.
Not to the center, but everything in between.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
We have
in
people
other
wanting
words,
to.
what you're doing is you're developing for someone else.
Heaven forbid.
And that needs to be something, I'm just saying, I'm challenging you because that's something that we need to look at in the future. You know, if the city wants to look and say, what's the best land use for that?
For that building or between?
I'm saying for, I just,
If
I
in
understand.
10 if
I
in 10
understand-
years Casey's comes up or Bucky's, which they're not going to, and says, and I don't doubt for a second that somebody's going to come to the city and say, we want to purchase that facility and then we're going to tear it down. And we're going to build a big old fancy whatever. Because as you know, that's going to be, I don't know, the mileage, 2 miles, 3 miles from I-40. It's going to be, it's worth more money now than it was when we bought it. And it's going to be worth more then.
Okay,
49.
so do we
Sorry.
have a plan in place then? If you're extending water out there at the taxpayer's expense?
Well, we're
what-
not.
well-
We're not doing that. So that's going to get in the news that we're doing that. I'm not saying we're doing it. I'm saying that the Water and Wastewater Commission ought to look at that to
Okay.
figure out how to do it.
One of
One
the things they
way
need to think about
or the
then
other.
is how we're going to pay for our investment at line as people tie on.
Same way we did for Tractor Supply.
How much did they pay?
I don't know. Tim, what did we pay? Or how much did Tractor Supply pay? There was a $20,000-$30,000 tie-on fee.
Their share of the properties there were like 9 principal properties. They were divided by the overall cost.
Yeah.
Is how we arrived at it, because the parcels were different sizes, so we just divided it by, and so everyone paid their work. Well, not everyone paid their fair share, but they supplied it.
Some got
Under the wire.
under the wire. So I would propose, I would propose that the same thing. And unfortunately, I know you grabbed me. Just a second. So some people would say, well, it's going to take some years to get our money back. It's absolutely going to take years to get our money back. But you won't get any money back if nothing goes out there. But to let the next Tractor Supply, they won't be Tractor Supply, to let the next development, so let the next, I don't know, whatever, sporting goods facility, to let them pay for that. It's like you have an answer for this building that's there now, and I don't know that you do. If you have one, I'd be glad to hear it.
What I'm saying is we need to be paid back for our investment. So do we have language in our existing ordinances right now that says this is how we will pay for things if the city decides to move forward on infrastructure?
We had that specifically for Tractor Supply. I think it limited itself to that area. Am I right, Mr. Posey? Hunter knows. That was limited to that. That same application should be applied.
So Tim retires and you don't get someone who negotiates. What we need is something codified that says, go ahead.
Well,
I'm listening.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but there was an ordinance passed for all future, for the 71 corridor going north and south and the Brahms area for water and sewer tile. And so that is existing right now. And I think it's 30,000 for water and 30,000 for sewer. That is existing right now.
Okay.
And so that's per, within 300 feet of 10 spur and 71 north and south. So it does exist. And we did collect on the new medical clinic out there. They did pay. Of course, that's the only structure there, but they did pay. So that was reimbursement there.
Mr. Bell, did you have?
Don't forget that the Excelsior Road on the south side is still paying for water district, and we would have to purchase that
Right.
from them before we ever lay the line in there. Otherwise, only lines we can lay on that strip is for fire protection. So
Right.
for the city to look at running a line from Sweatco Bank, it would only be for the senior citizen. And we would have to purchase that from Greenwood, which will add to. So to do what you're saying, the most feasible thing would be to drill under 71 and put a hydrant in there. But back to the mayor's point, these are senior citizens, they're not invalids. These are same people that you eat breakfast with at the dairy. You see them at Walmart. You probably see them at Boondocks in the afternoon. But for 3 hours a day, if there was a fire, they would be in the parking lot waiting for the fire department.
I see him at the gym too.
They're not
I'll let you finish your point, Mr. Tedford. I apologize.
Maybe we ought to visit sometime. We ought to sit and have this conversation.
Okay.
And I appreciate where we are on this. I'm not opposed to where we are right now. I want to make sure that we're entering from a planning perspective and have all the tools in place to manage that kind of growth. I would like to see the ordinance that, if you can get that, Charlotte, that shows what Tim is referring to, just for inspection.
Thank you, and I appreciate it. I do apologize for you. That's very dear to my heart after that project. It seems like at every turn there's something to try to stop it. And not that I'm not saying you are, but you're questioning things we're already there. And that's fine. It's your right. You're right to do that. I understand. But do know, everybody in the room, please understand and know, we're not fly by night willy-nilly. We've got a planning department that works hard and diligent every day. We got Sonny and Hunter. I mean, I don't know, and you take it for what it's worth, but I don't know two guys working any harder than these guys. I mean, they're all working hard. So when we make a move, we do things, it's thought out. There is a plan. Yeah, it works perfect.
Tractor Supply, that was a key to getting them here. And they were willing to pay for it, and they also had a Dollar Tree.
Just about number one.
Businesses out there.
We haven't quite got there yet. Almost. No, because Buddy
Okay.
asked us
Good.
to do the procedure.
We're good.
Thanks, sir.
If
I'm moving.
I may.
Yes.
Add a footnote to my presentation. I forgot to mention that I handed out to you today in front of you. This, I was looking for some statistics and data about just where the money's generated for the taxes that are remitted to the city of Greenwood. This is the industry codes, and it's all the industries and how much money was made up the remittance to the city. So you can see, based on those industries, electrical contractors, residential building construction, animal slaughter and processing, other food manufacturers, beverage manufacturing, where all the money came from as far as those unique industries. I can't answer any questions about what makes up those industries, and I do know that it's a little bit skewed based on sales that are coming in from online. But I thought you'd like to see how the money came in. So you can see what industries are the high generators versus the low.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, sir. All right, we're going to move on. Old business, unfinished business, city clerk treasurer, resolution adopting 2025 procedural rules tabled from the previous meeting.
So we had talked about having our meetings on Thursday instead of Mondays. Sounded like it was a good idea. But I think Steve Tepford has since told me that Mondays work better. I just wanted to make sure what was your pleasure on that? Would you like to keep them Monday or switch them?
I just have some issues with things with the middle of the week that may preclude me from being able to make a meeting on. I think I can do it once a month on Mondays, but I'm not sure I can do it midweek. So
Well, Monday still, I mean, I've already had that planned, you know, and stuff, so it still works for me. But I mean, Thursday works as well. But, you know, I mean, at the, you know, to me, if, you know, if it eliminates Steve, you know, I don't know. Maybe we should move it Monday. Because I'd like to hear what other council folks
Either
say.
one's fine with me.
I was looking forward to the Thursday because it made sense what some of those department heads were talking about. If there's something that went through on the weekend, give everybody time to discuss and cuss and then present it to us as the week went through. But I mean, I don't, one way or the other with Mr. Tedford, if he can or whatever. They both work for me too.
And I'm sympathetic to that. I know it's going to cause me a problem. I was all for it last month, but things change. And I've had some change with my work and it's not going to be as easy for me to do midweek.
Mr. Meeker.
I can work around it. Mondays, they usually steer clear of meetings and things like that on Mondays. They usually go Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So just have to work.
Your meetings?
Yes, my day job meetings. So I just have to be more flexible. I could work it out. I prefer Mondays, but if the group prefers to go to Thursdays, then I'm okay with that too. I'm either way.
Kind of sounds like we need to stay with Mondays.
I'm hearing Monday. Yeah. There's your ordinance.
I sent it to him already
Yeah.
even. I think it's that 16, is it 16 dash something or another?
Yeah.
Okay. I was making sure I got you the right one. And also we added, as you can see in the shaded part at, I think Rod's request, which will be held after City Hall regular business hours and as far as the special meetings go. And it refers back to an old ordinance, which we will address next. If you like this and you want to keep it that way, then we've got the ordinance about it next that will change also. Making that stipulation, the special call meetings are held only after the regular business hours of City Hall.
I like that. I like to keep that verbiage in there for special call meetings.
You want the change? Or keep
Yeah,
it like
the
it
highlighted
was?
part that you have in there,
Okay, you want to keep
keep that.
the change? Okay.
Yeah, keep the change.
And I don't know that you want to, but after what Mr. Lloyd said, I didn't know if you wanted to,
Filthy animal.
if you felt it too restrictive to stipulate somewhere in our procedural rules about not voting on things that are added at the agenda additions time.
Just discussing.
But I mean, that's not addressed in here, but we can if you feel you need to.
I think it's a pretty decent idea, but I hate to give Buddy credit.
Well, he's going.
He's deaf. He's still here.
That way we can just discuss them.
Oh, he's still here. Hey, he snuck back in.
Would you like me to add somewhere in here where it makes sense, the idea that we're going to say that
Any
only
agenda
under extreme
additions are-
circumstances
right.
would you vote
Yes,
on
ma'am.
it? Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
agenda
Okay.
additions added the night of meeting will only be for discussion.
Discussion.
Of course, then we'll have to complain about what's a circumstance or not.
Right. What's
We'll deal with that, I guess, as we cross. But
Well, I think that, again, if it just coincides that we do need to have a emergency, I mean, to me, it's better to address it at a council meeting instead of saying, okay, a week later,
That's
or
right.
this week, we've got to schedule a special call meeting to address whatever it is. And so I think we need to have in that aspect.
Absolutely.
I think that's what
Yeah.
I had
Mhm.
said earlier is I'll put in here where it's proper
So
about agenda additions and that it is the intent of city council not to vote on those items so that the public can have the proper time to
Right.
be present or address any of those concerns. But in extreme circumstances, you might have to vote.
Now, there's always a deal. That's what the 3 readings is there for. I mean, there's always that.
Right.
But we're not talking about just ordinances, right? We're talking about any agenda additions of any kind that might require a vote.
Oh, right. I would say if it's an ordinance, obviously, we could vote on it if it's added at the first of the meeting, because that's what the three reading, just no emergency clause. And I'd have to think that we've got enough brains up here not to do that. If we have to call Daniel back and waive the emergency clause. we would.
I mean, if it's a sheer emergency, wouldn't you want to put it on
Right.
there? And
Like you said, the
Yeah.
question might be, what's an emergency? But
Yeah.
well, you would think common sense.
So maybe, Tim, you're saying, you could vote on a first reading, but not,
Yes.
so don't just leave that part out,
Right, yeah,
like no voting,
right,
because you might want to vote on a first reading,
yes.
but stipulate that it's the emergency kind of
Right.
passage stuff.
Right.
Okay. You want me to just clarify that it's ordinances really too? You might vote on something else, but on a ordinance that affects the public, like,
Right.
okay. I'll,
Well, that's what the three readings is for, people to hear about it at the coffee shop or at the senior center,
Mhm.
then come down and complain next month.
Services certainly would be
Yeah.
underneath that: water, sewer, fire, police.
do you want to table this and see what language comes back, or do you want to just adopt this resolution with the understanding that that language is, and I'll send it back out to you, and please let me know if you don't like something about it. I mean,
Yeah, let's make those changes and bring it back. I'd like to
I make a motion to do that.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Meeker,
yes,
Mr. Terry.
Yes.
Mr. Rainwater.
Yes.
Mr. Tedford.
Yes.
That's unanimous. So you're gonna table it for 30 days, bring it back with those changes?
Yes, ma'am.
Because we're still under the emergency or the extension of our procedural rules as voted last time. We do already have a resolution in place.
So it will be Monday in March. The first Monday in
Right.
March.
Right.
Same with Monday.
So do we feel like we tagged on number 2 there, or do you?
No, it can, I mean, it doesn't
Okay.
even have to pass under emergency if you want to put it on first reading.
Okay. No, I'm just talking about the procedural rules for this.
No, this
Okay.
particular part is only about the after hours.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
on the next ordinance.
Okay. So,
It doesn't have anything about what we
Gotcha.
just said. Yeah.
all right. Number 2 is ordinance repealing and replacing ordinance 01-02 procedure rules for special meetings. Has emergency passage attached. Discussion, sir, gentlemen?
There's just one thing I saw in section 4, and maybe it's just how you read it or whatever, but the highlighted area where you have there, it said, per the ACA statute, the mayor shall have a vote to establish a quorum, any regular. I was thinking that maybe a quorum for any regular or specially
At,
called
it
meeting,
needs the word at.
or quorum at. Okay.
Yeah, I left that at out of there. Establish a quorum at any regular or special meeting. The word at needs to be in there.
Okay.
What-
Thank you.
What paragraph or what section?
Section 4, where I
Oh.
got that shaded part, I
Okay.
left out the word at.
Okay.
So the gray area is just if there's not 4 councilmen.
Yeah, it's just clarifying a quorum. We didn't have that in there. Before it sounded like only council members can make a quorum, but by law, the mayor is able to make a
He
quorum,
can
and
be
that's law.
right. He can be the 4th person.
So that, I felt that needed to be in there because it wasn't in there before.
Yeah. Makes
But the whole reason for this one really is the shaded part in section 2. Since y'all wanted the procedural rules, or somebody wanted the procedural rules to say that special meetings are only held after the regular business hours of City Hall, that wasn't in this ordinance that this refers to. So I hope you understand that. Yeah, I hope it makes sense.
It does.
Good.
Makes sense.
But if you want to put it on, if you like it all these little changes and put it on first reading, I guess that's what we need to do. Since
I'll make a motion to put this ordinance for first reading,
Second.
Motion and second.
By title only.
by title only.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Meeker,
yes,
Mr. Terry,
Yes.
Mr. Rainwater,
Yes.
Mr. Tedford.
yes,
Unanimous. An ordinance repealing and replacing ordinance number 01-02, establishing procedures for special meetings of the Greenwood City Council. And I'm going to wipe out and declaring emergency since it doesn't apply.
Thank you. Number 3 is Mr. Powell was going to present this ordinance regulating smoke alarm mandate for short and long-term rentals. First reading. He is obviously not here this evening. I think he asked to table these.
He did.
I'll make a
Ms.
motion to
Derrick?
table.
Motion,
Second.
second to table.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Meeker,
yes,
Mr. Terry,
Yes.
Mr. Rainwater,
Yes.
Mr. Tedford.
yes.
Unanimous.
Obviously, the same situation with number 4.
Table it. Second.
Motion second to table.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Meeker?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Rainwater?
Yes.
Mr. Tedford?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you. Number 5, under new business, is a resolution to authorize disposition of assets via public consignment sale. Last week, last week I got a text from Sean Luper informing me of a sale, consignment sale that they're having in Alma at their yard, if you will. That's going to be county and several, he didn't say who, he just said several other cities wanted to know if we wanted to be a part of that. And I said I would check and see how quickly we can get our list together. I thought it would be a good idea. You know, we have them here, but it's very limited how many people show up. But if you have it at the bigger the sale, the more people come, and especially when it's city equipment. So we issued or sent out an email. Danielle did to all the department heads, and we have is a list in here?
Uh-huh.
Okay, you have
It's
a
attached
list
to the
attached
resolution.
of items. We do have to take them to Alma. We had a department head meeting this morning, as we always do on council meetings, and Casey has offered to trailer a lot of these, especially the police department's got a lot of knickknacks, if you will. There's a few vehicles here and there. So we'd like to clean up a little bit of the hoarding we've been doing over in the yard. So we're asking your approval to go through this process.
I think it'll give us a chance to get a bigger crowd, whatever. So I'd like to vote to approve this resolution.
Second. Do we get any dibs on these things? A couple mowers on there.
You can bid, right? We asked that.
I mean, before they go over.
Uh-huh.
Before
they leave. My official answer is no.
Okay.
But if you go to Alma, you can bid on it.
Bid online, they do. I don't go to Alma.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Meeker?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Rainwater?
Yes.
Mr. Tedford?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you. Number 6, Parks Commission, confirmation of Bobby Price as alternate Parks Commission member. Bless you.
Bless you.
Mr. Casey, you want to address the council on this?
Yeah.
Good evening. We had a Parks Commission meeting last week. There is a vacancy for the alternate member of the Parks Commission. Bobby Price came and stood before the commission, and it was a unanimous vote in his favor. He is, I would say, extremely qualified to be on the commission. He is part of the fire department also. He's an avid mountain biker and has spent numerous hours working on the lake trail, volunteering to work on the lake trail with mostly obviously his time, but his tools too.
In
So,
the past.
yeah, he's familiar with our trail system. He has I don't want to say a big city view, but he's seen what's possible from some larger trail systems and larger parks departments. So I think he's extremely qualified to be a part.
I'll also add what Casey said to Colton Redding. They decided, they had 2 good applicants that they really liked, and one of them was also Colton Redding. And it's their desire
Commission's
that
wish,
Colton is a backup to the alternate, which their bylaws don't only say one alternate that you guys confirm, so that they're ready to drop in if there's ever a vacancy. But Colton is a backup in case Bobby's life ever changes and we wouldn't be able to put him in right away. We'd have to come through this confirmation process with you. I just wanted to add that there's that backup.
It is kind of refreshing to have people waiting in the wings
Yeah.
to want to be a part too. That's really nice.
2 motivated individuals.
Yeah. And Colton, as just a secondary, he owns a dirt business, so he would be a valuable asset from just a perspective of helping us from the ground floor up.
I believe Colby's a volunteer firefighter for the Greenwood Rural too, isn't he? When you say
Bobby.
Bobby.
Oh, sorry.
I think that he worked for White Bluff.
Okay.
previously.
Yeah.
Is that right? That's what he said, right?
Colby.
Colby there. Sorry.
About Colton.
So I hear a motion.
Second.
Motion is second.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Meeker,
Yes.
Mr. Terry,
Yes.
Mr. Rainwater,
Yes.
Mr. Shepherd.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Casey. Number 7 is planning resolution to approve conditional use in C1 zoning for short-term rental at 13 North Main Street.
Mayor, Council, Mr. Deary, you have in front of you a resolution to approve a conditional use on a piece of property at 13 Main Street. This is the building that basically is right beside Centratel. Mr. Brown has purchased that property and wants to remove that building and rebuild a building there. You have a copy of his plans there. It's he wants to put his office there, and if you look at the plans, it's going to be a very nice addition to our Main Street. The conditional use that he's requesting is he wants to designate a portion of this project to a residential, whether it would be a long-term rental or like a Airbnb. That's to be decided, but it will overlook 13 Main. It'll have a balcony overlooking it. Like I said, if you look at the plans, you'll see that that's going to be an asset to Main Street. The Planning Commission reviewed this. It was posted, it was published. The property owners around it had no issue with this. The Planning Commission voted unanimously to approve this and to bring it in front of the council for your approval. Mr. Brown is here if you have any questions, but I think it would be a good addition to our downtown. We already have one business on the opposite side of the square that has a residence in it. All building codes and fire code will be followed. That's, we will go over that after if you approve the conditional use, and then we will continue on with it. But that is my request.
And so with being a residence above or whatever, it doesn't have to be sprinkled or that?
That is something that, of course, that's Chief Bryant's department. And like I said, all fire code will be followed. If it requires sprinkling, then they will have to be sprinkled. I think it will be, but like I said, that's his department and conditional use approval, so we can proceed on. Like I said, you'll notice in the resolution, building codes and fire code will be followed.
Sonny, it says to provide adequate parking. I'm assuming that's going to be in the
back.
In the
Yes.
back.
The entryway to the rental will be in the back. So you won't be able to see, the apartment as such from the Main Street. Mr. Brown wants to use this for his office. He sold the office that he had that was across the street from McDonald's, and he's wanting to build this structure there, and I think it'd be kind of a neat addition.
This building was historically 2-story though, wasn't it?
I think historically it was.
It was, the top story was blown off in the tornado.
I think so. I talked to Mr. Brown about it, and he says that the building there is in pretty bad shape. It needs to come down. And I think he did mention that historically it did have a second story on it.
Why has it not been brought down already? If it's in that bad a shape?
Tim, it's one of those things that they just keep hanging on. It says that the back part of it is so low that every time it rains, the water comes in. Apparently there is on the back part is like a ramp that goes into the building, and it just fills up with water. And again, he can address the quality of the building, but
This is a little red door.
Yeah, it used to be a salon. Right?
Which
Salon.
building is this?
it's the one right next to Centratel. If you're
Centratel.
looking at Centratel and the next building back to the south, that's a
Okay.
little square.
Like across from Ralph
Yes.
Chiropractic.
Used to have the 10 Commandments on the
In
outside.
between Vanderwatt and Centurytel.
Right.
That building.
No more about downtown.
Is that I guess that is a spiral staircase right there in the middle. Is that right?
I believe it is. Jamie, would you like to? It is spiral staircase.
Mini fire department. Oh, that's a pole. Never mind. Never mind.
Yeah, it's, looks good. Right, damn, I can't say-
Have you thought about the premium rental of that balcony during the parade?
I've got part of that rented already
Oh, did you? Okay.
on approval.
First thing they think of.
But if you look, the one sheet shows the elevations, front and rear. Gives you an idea of what he has planned there.
It looks good.
I had a question, Jamie, when he first presented it and brought it in, and it's been addressed, just so people are wondering, the existing walls on both Vanderwatt and Century Tale would remain. You would just be removing and building to them.
Yeah, so the way that it is structurally currently, the wall on the Century Tale is gonna be a lot easier.
Yeah.
Essentially, brand new CMU wall.
Right.
The wall on the Vanderbilt side is just all stacked.
Wow.
So this building, kind of going to Ralph's, this building was actually, from what I've researched, was gone. Like the second story, you taken off the whole.
All of it.
So the Vanderwatt and Lola's took the third story off.
Yeah. Okay.
This one was rebuilt sometime, from what I've been told, in the sixties, after the late sixties. So that's what I was trying to see if there's any really historical significance to the building itself before I did it.
Is there any way,
Doesn't seem,
any way you could, when you expose that stacked brick over there, you can utilize that wall
I'm trying
to leak? That'd be awesome.
There's some holes, like in the front, I'll talk to Frank, but I didn't talk about it. Like in the front is gonna be kind of an homage to the square.
Yeah.
The old history of the town square.
Yeah.
So if you look at the plan, you'll see some, between the couch on the front, you'll see some areas that are designated, I don't know if it's on the plan or not, but for, different display units on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm gonna have some murals, and the mural is actually gonna be going on the old brick. So I've gotta fill in a few spots where the brick is not there anymore. And it's gonna have an old school mural that kind of goes to the downtown. So it's gonna, the front, I'm trying to do a big spin on the old history of the square.
Cool.
Kind of cheesy, but I think.
No, it's cool.
Well, there's nothing but precedent for this type of thing in downtowns, and I think it's a neat idea. I don't think there's anything better. You know, the facade essentially, because I can't visualize the building right now, but the facade's going to be altered. And so it won't look like the original structure, but it will maintain the character of the downtown. And
Yes.
yeah,
We'll just add more
Yeah.
to it.
that's,
Jamie, the staircase in the back, you know, how far does that extend out from the back side of the building?
I think it's 17 stairs, but I don't know exactly the distance. It obviously has to stay on that property and into the parking lot. I can give you that answer. I think it's 17 treads, and your drive overrun is 7 and 11, so I could do the math and let you know here in a little bit.
yeah, they get these all over Van Buren, and it really adds.
Yeah, downtown Fort Smith too. I mean, that's,
Mhm.
well, in Chappie Crossing, if you go out there, you'll see the businesses on the bottom and the apartments on top. But I just think it'd be a great asset to our downtown.
Bring a new look.
Pardon?
Bring a new look.
Yes.
I make a motion, we approve the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion, and a second to approve the resolution.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Meeker,
Yes.
Terry,
No,
Ms. Rainwater,
Yes.
Mr. Tedford,
Yes.
passes by majority.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Number 8, Council of Volunteer Fire Department Response and Incentives Discussion. I think Chief and I talked about this earlier. Do you want to? Oh, sorry. Okay, which one? 12? Yep. If council's okay with that. So number 12 is.
Which one?
Yes. Number 12, which is now number 8, is volunteer fire health insurance coverage discussion. I guess that's you, Mr. Marsh,
By default.
by default.
I'm gonna put it up on the screen based on what we said. So up here, presentation is gonna show you the impact and what response that Danielle got from putting it out there and what we ended up looking at for budget. So the budget that you approved under health insurance for the volunteer health insurance was 13 individuals. That is the cost, $461.04 at the current rate structure under AML insurance. That's $71,922 added to the actual budget before this discussion got involved. The AeroVac is for a fully staffed department at that time, but I think now it's 34 or 35. What we do is we buy placeholders. So whenever somebody comes on new, all those new employees, we don't have to go back to them and buy more. This is in the bundle. So those placeholders are for them and it's $75 a piece. So the bulk of your insurance that we budgeted was under the volunteer at 13. So what that did, and this is your existing budgets you have in front of you. I did give you a copy of the full budget. This is what we started the year at, 1,000,007. That's your general fund checking unassigned balance. And the fire department then went to negating the full-time staffing and then adding in the 71,000 for the health insurance for recruitment purposes, 67,000 deficit. And that is playing off of the amount that was reduced in the general department on their submitted budget from what was normally running just at or under 400,000 down to 267 to kind of offset some of the impact of the deficit spends. So that brought us down now below the $1 million security blanket threshold that I would love to tolerate rather than having it less. That's taking us down 42.06%, or about almost slightly under $750,000 in our unassigned general fund. Now let's look at the impact of what we've discovered and where we wanted to budget. This is what we talked about today, the volunteer health insurance. There are 14 right now, and there are 6 more that we think are going to, of the 7 that are still left, to contact and make a decision, will most likely also adopt the stance that they want to take on the insurance. If that's the case, we're only going to be looking at 10 months because I think it's going to take effect for the open enrollment. It'll start March 1st. So that would bring that 71,000 up to 92,000 or 20 at 10 months, not 12 months. Then we have new employees. I think we talked with Stuart and there was 5, I believe is what I was asked to budget in that, because there's a bunch of responses that he's perusing over right now. And he's saying that within maybe by the end of this month, starting in March, they would have also elected, but they're not going to be part of the open enrollment. If you come on as a new employee, you have to wait 60 days before you get insurance, and that would be also applicable to them. So that's why this is down to only 8 months. That's what we're budgeting. And that would be 18,441. And that brings the total from 90,000 up to 129, right under $130,000. So the impact to the general fund would be, you would be looking at a deficit now that is being absorbed by the general fund unassigned or unrestricted monies of 105,000 from 62. And that brings the amount down again to 959,000. Now you're a little over $750,000 reduction to 44.3%. So that's the impact. Now I want to show you
When you did that previous slide there,
this one.
no, the other one, the one before that one. And so I was thinking the 92,000 plus the 18,000, right? That's what really is the impact, right? Because the air evac and the
Yes,
top one has already been included in there.
correct. In fact, the Aerovac they were getting all along. This would be what you're putting back into their budget. And then this is what it looks like as far as all the departments, budgeted deficits or surpluses. This was 24. This is where we ended 24. It's the first time we actually went from a loss or a deficit, net deficit in that department. Usually we end up with a surplus. In 24, we ended with 179,000 reduction, all in with the operating departments under the general fund. And now it's going to go budget wise. This was a high number, but it's usually about 400. Now it's $724,000, all departments but two. And this is a huge reduction from what the budget was in 24. And there's history, as I showed you in the budget. You actually have this slide in your budgets, giving you all the way back to 21. So the trend is highly negative. What we have to look at is sustainability, and I'm not sure that, see this, when you put this in here, let's go back to this number right here. That's being asked to be borne by whatever general fund generates the actual funds, unrestricted monies coming in from all revenue sources to them. So for the insurance, once you give it now, so the point is that next year, if the rates go up, that impact goes up, and that's going to have to be absorbed by their revenue stream, which is operational, coming from the county sales tax. And you're going to always have that burden. It's going to just go up. So that's why I'm saying I'm wondering if this is going to be sustainable unless you have another revenue stream to bring in to that.
Well, it's sort of like hiring however many new employees, on to the city as far as benefits go. That's what it feels like.
And if you add full-time and you start bringing on the other, it's how are you going to fund that?
Chief?
I would like to ask you guys to maybe give us some time to do a little more research. We've had some discussions. Because really we've had about 2 weeks since y'all brought this up, and we were at a conference this week. We were able to actually contacts today with Municipal League and with the insurance company and try to figure out what some other cities that are doing this are doing. After discussion with city attorney, I can't go in there and say, you get it and you get it and you don't, because they have insurance. It's out of my hands if they choose to take it or not. Our question is whether, how many of our guys are there, if they're on another insurance, is their insurance going to say, hey, we're going to drop you if you have that available, or vice versa, or if they can come in and if our insurance that we have, we don't have this for sure yet, we don't know, is if they're going to say, well, if they already have insurance somewhere else, they can't get on ours, because that would change that number probably back down to where the numbers I gave you. Right now, go over there and everybody says it's available to everybody, so everybody goes like this. And so, which, I would expect them to, it's an offered benefit. And so I was hoping we could do a little bit more research on it and try to figure out if, what other stipulations we're going to have with the insurance company. And has already started looking into that, and we just don't have answers right now on that. So what's your thought, Tom?
I also wanted to add too that this does not consider the spouse. Or the dependent coverage. This is only for employee only.
This is a benefit. Should we be requiring or at least looking at some kind of minimum call response number for them to receive that type of benefit? If you show up to one call a year or two calls a year.
Well, I don't have anybody that does that, but we, I would think that maybe we could try to do something like that. Right now we don't have a call volume requirement. We do have how many meetings you can make, or you're supposed to make, and training you're supposed to make requirements. But the call volume was something to where we didn't want to make it where we were going to lose somebody because they didn't make a lot of them, but they were dadgum good firefighter to show up at the fire scene. A lot of things to do with the call volume with our zeros as medical calls. So that's only the medical trained people. That's not everybody on the department. Some of them choose not to be first responders, and they're not EMTs, and they went through the basic training that Fire Academy requires, but they don't do medical response. They haven't done any of the training on that. I think we did 2 or 3 that don't do that. And basically there's a lot of burnout. That's why guys have stopped. Some of the guys have even let their EMT drop. And so as new guys come on, we encourage them to train and get those things. A lot of guys want to, but it's just right now it's getting hard to get people to even apply. I think we have 6 or 7 applications over there right now after December and January, and that's all we got. And I don't know, we had discussed, doing some changes maybe on our, the future on the bylaws on our distance. Right now, it's only out to 1 mile because of our planning jurisdiction. We set it to the planning jurisdiction, thinking it was 5-mile planning jurisdiction, and the state comes back in and shortens that to 1 mile. And so in there, it says planning jurisdiction. And so I kind of fudge on that a little bit every once in a while. If I go, well, you're pretty close to 1 mile, but you're a little bit more than that, but we need you. Come on. But unfortunately, if they're 3 miles away, now our bylaws say that if they're on the department and they've gotten all these training and they move out, they can move out of town within 5 miles or something like that. And so I do have some guys that have moved out of town to get their 2 or 3 acres of land where they can build a house on, because it's just hard to find around here. And so they're able to make response. So we may need to move that out. I don't know how many more people that's going to bring in of us having a lot more applications, but at least open it up to some more. This right here, everybody was very fired up about. They thought it was a great idea. I had 2 or 3 that this is going to definitely help. There are probably more than that. Nobody really said. I had 2 or 3 that were very vocal, said, hey, yeah, this is going to help me a lot. I'm self-employed. And then I had several that said, hey, I've got insurance, so I'm not sure how it's going to work out, if I need to double up, if it's going to work out or what. So that's why I'd like to do a little bit more research on it and come back to you. But as I said, this would dictate our next, incentives at night. If we don't have money all of our money goes to this, we don't need to be doing that. There's only so much money there. So
you want us just basically have a study with you, you get a study back to, and then let's just table this for right now.
Well, we can table it for now. I don't know. I mean, Tom, what's your thoughts on it? Tom sees what it's going to do to the budget. I mean, if we had, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what our options are on. I don't want to cut it out from anybody. I would love for everybody to get it, but I don't want to cut it completely out of the budget. And then guys that really do need it, and people that could come on the department, come and work for us, say, well, they're not even going to do that anymore. I just know, I rescind my application, because we've been advertising it.
I'm just wondering, how far can we push it out? Is the insurance company saying we need the answers by March 1st, or can it be pushed out to April 1st? Or?
Well, maybe could we come back in 2 weeks?
Danielle, you have a
Did we already sign them up?
Yeah.
And it's already stuck?
Please come up.
As HR director, let me.
Name and address.
Yes, Danielle Smith. I am the mayor's assistant and the HR director. So I went last Tuesday night to the fire department meeting, and there was a huge response, obviously. So 15 of them were there. That's not including Mr. Brown, Mr. Powell, Stewart. So all 15 that were there, 14 of them signed up. And so I've already submitted that to JTS, because the agreement with JTS is that they were going to open up a separate enrollment just for our firemen. They were helping us out for them to have an effective date of March 1st. Well, then it was, and you all told me to go ahead, and you voted for it. And so I did what you said. And then I had 6 so far of the 15 that I've met with who would be interested in family coverage down the road if that ever gets brought up. The problem now is that I've already sent it in which I've told them to wait, But my worry or my concern is that I've already told them it's coming. Your card's coming. It's going to be effective March 1, and they're all excited. And now I told Stuart, because it's his people, he gets to go over there and tell them, "Look, we're going to wait now," because they're all wanting to sign up, obviously. And as far as the insurance company, I mean, it doesn't matter to Municipal League whether they have coverage full-time at their other job or not, because they know that they're part-time firemen, volunteer firemen. So, I mean, that's not an issue on our side. Now, if Arc Best has an issue with someone here having insurance, then that's something that they would have to deal with. And then if that's the case, then they need to tell us, I don't need to sign up with you all, and we can deal with that as it comes. The other thing that you all talked about, I don't know if you want to discuss this or not, was if they didn't want our insurance, could they get some kind of incentive or some kind of payment in lieu of that? When I talked with the JTS and municipally, they were not really excited about that question. They did say that there is one town that they know of that does that. When I talked with Municipal League, they advised us not to do that, but obviously if that's something that you all want to do, that we can.
No, did they say why?
It opens up a can of worms, is her exact statement. I will tell you, the one that he told me of offhand that he knew that had it is El Dorado. Their council voted it in for themselves. Instead of receiving insurance, they receive a payment. I believe he said about $450 a month. And so our employee only cost is $461.
Well, it could be $91.
It could be. I'm just giving you the information that I
Yeah,
collected. Yeah. And all this is up to you all and whatever budget allows, but I'm just giving you the information. Municipal League also advised that if we did do that, we would need to create an ordinance, and that you all need to be reminded that if you offered this for the fire department, you would then have to offer it for all employees. So, I mean, that's something else to think about. And so I was out all last week with a child who was sick, and then Friday I was actually at Municipal League for an HR meeting. So I have not gotten to really talk with Municipal League very much. So I do have a scheduled call with Katie with Municipal League, who is the director over the Municipal Health Fund, in the morning, to talk with her more about that. Because there was something brought up as far as like if there was an affidavit, if we don't want to try to cover everybody, or if we can't afford it, that saying that if you're not offered insurance at Art Best or wherever your full-time position is, then we obviously would take you on. But I feel uncomfortable now because I've already been over there and said, hey, you're getting it. Here we go. So that's kind of hard.
Yeah. And just ask them if they can be more specific than can of worms, and see if there are any.
I'll be sure to ask her that.
Yeah. I mean, presented that way, it doesn't give us a lot of guidance.
I'm just telling you what she said, Steve.
I know.
I was thinking when you say you have to, apply it to all part-time, I'm
No,
thinking.
you have to apply it to all employees.
I don't know why we don't.
Oh,
anyway.
so employees
Right.
that is
Right.
incentive. Okay.
And let me say again, I worked for Conoco,
Yes, sir.
a Fortune 500 company, who offered that to all of their employees. They said, if you've got a spouse who has insurance and you don't want to duplicate that insurance, you can opt out and we will give you X number of dollars a month. And we did that. But that was a Fortune 500 company.
Which
that
we are
offered it.
not.
Well, I understand,
Yeah.
but it's to our benefit, because if you had 20% of your employees that opted out, you could give them.
As long as we're obviously not paying that full amount. Sure, it would benefit. Yeah.
If they accept the insurance, we're paying
Yeah.
$5,500 per employee, even if that person doesn't need it.
Right.
But if they come in and say, no, I don't really think I need that, and I like the idea of getting $50, $100, $150, $200 a month, and just using my spouse's insurance.
Right.
Then instead of us paying $5,500 for that person to have insurance that they may not need, we're giving them $1,200, $2,400, and that's a savings to us on every single employee who does that. And I'm not directing this, I'm directing this to everybody. It's just something to consider. That serves as potentially both an incentive and a savings to the city. Doesn't cost us anything. It saves us money to offer that incentive.
Hey, Tom, in the fire department's budget, 600010, That's the salaries, officers and volunteers. Last year they had budgeted 303,000, a little over 303,000. They only spent 173,000.
You're asking the question, why?
No, I'm just saying, they budgeted again $304,000. I mean, we're coming in $130,000 below budget. Could we not use the salary, I mean, transfer money from officers and volunteers to this?
The underlying question you're really asking is the 300,000 a realistic number in that budget for this year? And was last year an anomaly?
Yes.
And that's his question.
Chief.
I can pull it up.
I would say that since we didn't have but one, or actually we had two guys going through all the training instead of the 5 or 6 that we normally have. It made it an anomaly, I guess you'd say. So that'll knock that up. And I would also say that our regular training on our guys that we normally do, since we have so many guys that are already firefighter 1 and 2, we didn't do as much as that of the academy training also after the changeover, what they're doing with the new testing. That's going to be ramped up some this year. We've already had that discussion that we need to ramp up our training more. But our call volume was definitely up, but as I said, our response on the medical side was down. When I say down, you saw that how many I budgeted for what I thought we would have in total response, and then our guys if I have guys not respond, and I'm not spending that money.
Yeah, but 63,400 is education. I mean, you have an entire line dedicated to education and training. So it wouldn't come out of
I'm talking about their pay for training. It's a pay, you get paid for training. So that's different. That's a different ballgame.
You mean?
They attend a meeting, they get.
Yeah,
paid hourly.
yeah, you get paid per hour on the training. That comes out of those salaries. But I would say that.
So in his original, where is that? Have you found the slide with the 170 versus 303,000?
This is,
I hadn't seen it yet.
well, it's down.
Oh, okay.
Now, this doesn't have a budget on it. I could actually.
Right, yeah,
show you
okay.
the budget.
You're talking about
page 85 on your packet. I mean, we way undershot last year, and I think that would be the best place to absorb that $110,000 would be right there.
Under the insurance health, that projection there that you had where you said, I believe it's 869, did that initially include like 13 firefighters taking it and then the 2 full-time? Is that where that 69 come from?
I don't know. I got 7.
Yeah, under item 64430. I mean, excuse me. Where's that again? 64,420.
It's 13, or 69, or 6104, 71,000.
71,9, yeah.
Wait, I was just looking at the wrong line. 90.
It's up to you guys what we do. We're just trying to figure out if there's anything outside the box we could do so we don't kill it. I'd hate to vote for it tonight and it go away completely.
Well, it'd certainly be nice to know if some guys can ask their full-time jobs if they're allowed to use it. 1, 2, if they want to opt out. It'd be nice to have a solid number of how many are actually going to take it so we can get and I understand it needs to be like the helicopter deal. It needs to be there in case you fill all the spots, but
our city attorney and I had this discussion today. How do I differentiate? I mean, how do I ask them will they feel uncomfortable if I'm saying, hey, maybe you don't need to have this?
You don't want to discourage.
Yeah, I can't.
no, certainly not. But I
Appear to
mean,
discourage.
So I don't know.
to offer it,
But
see who takes it.
I mean, I just say this is what we have to offer.
In saying that, let's say we offer it for everybody, and then when March 1st rolls around, only 4 sign up, then we can change this number.
Well, the way I'm seeing is
For
that
this
They're all
year.
signing up already.
we already have, originally we had 71. I mean, we had 13 in there. That's where that kind of 71,000 came in because it was, I think, really spread over more than 10 months. It was spread over like 10
Well,
months.
I got that number because I said, hey, if this ever happened, how many people think they would actually want to, take part in it? And I had, 10 or 11 guys. And so I said, well, put a couple more than that. Well,
But
that's because it wasn't reality yet.
But that 71,992 was for 13 guys for a whole year or for 10 months
That was
for a whole year. And so
Because
now,
this was your budget at the beginning of the year.
right. So I said, so now we're doing, what I look at, it says that you look at 92,808. You said that was for I think an additional
10 months.
for 10 months.
Yeah, you don't get billed until they start the insurance. So the longer you push it down this year, the less of an impact it's going to be this year. But that's changes next year because that number's real for next year. It'll be a full year. Unless you say, oh, this is for this year.
Or if we were to switch out of,
Then it could be, and let me tell you, I want to give you those numbers. Just for this is a very expensive benefit to the city of Greenwood, the way it's structured right now. In 2023, our amount that we had, our amount of expense total all in for the city, this is the city's cost, $581,000. Over $500,000. It dropped to it increased to 599 in 24. And it dropped to 456,000, which is a decrease of 24.58% going to AML. But that doesn't mean they won't raise their rates next year based on experiences. That doesn't mean we won't switch to another insurance company for
Realized
to mitigate
savings.
the
Yeah.
increases. So you're looking, don't just look right now, and that has ripple effect all the way down in future years. What you're deciding right now has an impact 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way down the line.
And this is only available through municipal league to give these guys, the volunteers, more than likely. This would only be available with municipal league's insurance if we go back.
Correct, yeah, that's why they've never been we've never been able to offer it before, because like on all these past years, when we had either Arkansas Blue Cross Blue Shield or United Healthcare, and we were with Brunhiller and Clark as our broker, that was not available. But because we switched to Arkansas Municipal League, they now offer for employees, they do commissions, firemen, council. Yeah.
And the other ones don't offer it, I guess, because, full-time
Yes,
employees.
is your
They're
main.
real big on defining an employee.
Yes.
And they want you to qualify, or they'll just say, no, we don't do it.
Well, that needs to be discussed for sure with these guys. They need to know that because we switched insurance a lot.
believe I
and that's
said that
not usually
Tuesday
the
night.
council's
Yeah.
problem
Yes.
Before we get blamed for being
Yeah,
mean to
I'm
the
pretty
firemen
sure
next year.
I stated that Tuesday evening.
But that's a real deal. Obviously, as we're hemorrhaging money all over the place, sometimes going,
Yes.
changing the
I
insurance.
know. I'm all about keeping our fire department. I really am. I hate that it came across that I didn't, because I do support them. Obviously, I think they do a tremendous job. I couldn't do it. I don't want to do it. But at the same time, we have to do what's best for the city, obviously, and you all know that. And I just hate that we've made this huge savings by switching, and now it's going to get, we have to do what's best for our people and for the city. But
Because, we liked our coverage before.
We
Really,
did.
The only reason we switched was that big, significant money savings.
and because the coverages were comparable, we didn't just switch for that.
No, right.
Yeah, we're having
Packed
pretty
a lot
similar
in.
coverages. Yeah.
And now 40% of our employees have some dependent coverage. Well, now it's family coverage. And that cost, that'll cost the city 366.02 is the family coverage portion. So there's a 36% of that is the city's portion responsibility. And that's not factored in here. So if they were to ultimately you decide that you're going to offer them the ability to put their dependents on there as a family coverage, you're going to increase by 36% the amounts for about 40% of our total workforce. So how many ever they pick up, maybe 40% of the full staff will want some form of dependent coverage.
Well, and I think that, especially self-employed firefighters, would definitely say that, I'll cross that bridge with my family. I'll go with the
I think I said a while ago, but I had 6 of them tell me of the 15 I met with Tuesday night that they would be interested if the city ever brought that on for family coverage. And I think most of them, maybe 1 or 2 were self-employed and the rest of them have full-time positions with other companies.
Wow.
And they were implying it might be cheaper.
That's 40%. Well, what you just said. So it seems to be panning out.
And one tiny other detail is when we, of course, you may know this already, but when we present our insurance coverage to another company, they look at our experience rating. And this is what they know about us. And then they take us. But then when we change the game, you don't know what all other kind of experience you're piling on top of that. So it's very likely, the more we add, the more our experience rating changes, of course, which makes it more. And in some cases, they can't even drop you, because it's so much more reliability. Just saying, that's another detail.
I would think one of those companies would try to find a way to be able to insure everyone that's on the insurance instead of telling you to drop 40 people.
Well, I would imagine that municipal league would be more adaptable to assist in that, but I think she's
Possibly.
saying. if
We've
we go
endured
back
it.
to another
We've
one-
had situations where they won't cover us. Because of our experience rating, they've
Well,
said, no, we're not going to bid on
right,
that.
But I'm saying not municipal league necessarily.
Oh,
since
I don't
they're in
know.
the business of.
I don't know. We haven't had them enough since
Yeah,
I've been here
Right,
to know how they act about that.
right.
I'm sure they try,
I'd like to just see if we could find a way that the guys that don't have insurance would be able to get it.
Where are we at on the big square beautification deal you presented?
It's like, this is, I think this is important for recruiting and retaining. And I think just by the sheer number of firemen who are interested in it, I think it's an absolute need. And when you put the pencil to the paper, it's still a lot cheaper than a full-time fire department. I mean, if we can get folks, more vested in being a volunteer fireman because of
I
this
did
benefit.
also inform the, oh no, I think they can hear me. I also did inform the ones that were there about how you all voted for the appreciation incentive, our Christmas bonus, as we call it, but that they would receive that now at $100.
We'd give that up.
Correct.
That's not a whole lot, but it's something, yeah.
Everybody is, and on behalf of the chief this morning, he kind of took a lot of hits from all of us because,
Ever.
and I don't admit that very often, but he did. And they were all constructive, I hope, criticisms or ideas of how he can incentivize these guys and gals to become firemen, because I know that's what he needs. So everybody was lending their, Casey was really causing a lot of problems, but anyway, we were all chipping in. And so he knows, and to your point tonight, I think you're asking for more time
Well,
to look into it, to have Danielle ask more specific from AML, right? And
that's
get-
what I was asking. I
get
mean, it's up
squared
to you
away.
guys. You guys, I mean,
Well,
If
I
you
just want to know,
guys think-
AML said that they were giving us a special time till March 1st. I mean, do you think they'll go back and say, oh, we'll give you till April
Well,
1st?
that's what she needs to find out tomorrow.
Right.
That's enrollment. That's not a deadline.
official meeting, but I don't know if y'all.
That wasn't,
After
that wasn't a deadline. That was just the date that they gave me to, because, we bill them at the head. And so that's why they pushed it out. But if we need to push it out further, I'm sure that we can. I hate that I've already told 14 firemen, you're getting insurance, we're good to go. And I hate that.
And you said it's going to be effective March 1st?
It would
Is
be
that the March-
effective March 1.
Okay, that's the insurance coverage date,
Yes.
not some date where they need.
No,
to go
not
back
a
for
deadline, no. And so that can be changed.
Oh, they're not going to have a problem with that.
Well, you're not having to retract and say you're not getting it.
I know,
yet.
I know,
You're just-
I know.
And I know where you're coming
Yeah.
from. That's a hard thing.
Stuart's just wanting more time.
Yeah, you can blame the chief.
Yeah, I told him he has to go tell him
Right,
that it's going to be
right.
a little bit, or if it comes to. not.
Well, I'd like to be able to get the ball rolling and still make the March 1st deadline. I mean, there's got to be a way to do that.
Well, that would just be y'all saying,
Just allocate the money.
go ahead, yeah.
Stuart needs more time and wait on your call for tomorrow.
Well, Stuart doesn't necessarily need more time unless you all are good to just give it to all of them.
And if you
I
do
mean-
that, that's what it is, right?
Yes, yes,
That's going forward.
This is the
yes,
20
because that does not include Chief, AC, Rod,
Angie.
Angie, I'm sorry, thank you, and then the one that declined.
Well, the one that, I don't know if I can say that, but
That's what she wanted to do, and I don't think, I commend her for
Okay.
looking out for the city.
I'm just saying that would be a placeholder.
Okay, yeah, it could. So, yeah. The only reason we need to talk with Municipal League is if you all do not want to allocate that money and don't approve it, and when we need to figure out a way to cut. I mean, that's the only reason that we would need to wait.
We just didn't know if that insurance would say, okay, you got something somewhere else, we're not gonna cover you either way. So we don't know that.
No,
A lot
I
of
don't
people's
believe that
insurance
that's the
doesn't.
case,
I don't
especially
know.
with Municipal League, because they know that they're all part-time volunteer firemen. They know that that's not their full-time job.
Their full-time job
But
would be
their
the
full-time
primary insurance, and then this would be a secondary.
Right, so their full-time job may kind of throw a wrench in it, but that's on them. I mean, and then they'll let me know and I'll send
The
it to
insurance
Municipal League
companies
and
dig
it'll,
it out.
and then we'll handle it. But yeah, as of right now, that's your number. As long as the remaining 6 that I haven't gotten to talk with don't want to sign up, which I don't know why they wouldn't.
Bless you. So that number on the screen right now is what, if we say yes right now, that's what it's going to be.
Right. But I will tell you, you got to look at it from an annual perspective, and I just did those numbers. So if you go, let's suppose that rate doesn't change for 26, and in the budget, those numbers don't change, although you think you're going to go above 25. You're going to try to get to 30 something. So if they get to 30, forget that. Let's just go with the 25. That number down there at the bottom is 129,000. Becomes 157,000 for a full year, as long as that rate does not change. And that has to be absorbed by, they don't have the revenue stream significant enough in the O&M to cover that.
It's
So
straight from general.
It's all coming straight from generals having to support that, just like they support the police department to that extent. Difference is he has CSUT, they don't. So there's a big difference there. Now, if you go to 30 something, that's going to add even more. You're up close to maybe even 200,000. So down the road is what I'm looking at.
Looking at the big picture.
But they pay
A little more pressure on getting that tax renewed.
what?
A little more pressure on getting that tax renewed.
A lot. But that doesn't have any impact on this.
No,
It does.
It will.
Indirectly,
Right.
because if they lose the sales tax,
Right.
which is. for
they got to use money from other.
equipment, that has to automatically come into the O&M side.
You think we'll get anything from,
Again, the only reason I'm checking with her is if we need to find ways to cut.
up to y'all. If y'all want to do the whole department and move on, you do this. If y'all think we need to cut it in half, or, I mean, it'd be nice if we had the incentive thing where Steve was talking about he had with a private company, but that would take a little bit of research for the city to do for a while. Probably beyond just the fire department, but it'd be nice
I
to know.
think it's a call to the city of El Dorado. I think it's a call to the Arkansas Municipal League and have them, push back on a little bit and say, what do you mean by can of worms? Specifically, are there any legal ramifications?
No, there's not.
Yeah.
There is not. I did ask that.
No.
There's nothing. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And consider that the Arkansas Municipal League, the more people they have in it, the larger the group is, the more they spread out the cost. So certainly their idea is to get as many people in it as possible. But what's good for them is not always that good for us. So, and the importance of it is when you present it to a volunteer fireman or to anybody else in the city, it needs to be, hey, you have a choice. You know, do you want to take the insurance? Everybody says, yeah, I'll take it. But if you say, okay, would you rather take the insurance or have a couple of $100 or $100 a month, and you just work off your,
I was thinking, if you did 200, 225 or something like that a month, that might be something a lot more, person that already has insurance, like, I'd rather have
yeah.
that.
But
I'd
the
rather have
point
that.
is, before you decide how many people you're putting on there, they should be given that scenario where you do have the alternative to opt out.
Well, then that's something that you all need to decide on the amount, correct?
Well,
I
theoretically,
don't have to check with AML on that. I mean, I've already
No,
asked
no.
them, that's, JTS said that they can put together a program for us, but Tom and I were discussing, and that's $1,500 a year cost. Why would we even do that? That's something that we could just manage here, or they all would do it. So I mean, that's nothing that we have to check on. It's just a matter of the amount that you all want to come up with, or that the budget would allow, or what would help it out most, so that way we can present it to them, and then that number, will change.
That might get it back down to the number we
Yeah.
originally started with.
Right.
Very close.
so for every $100 of incentive you give them, you reduce the payment to the Arkansas Municipal League of $4,300. So if you offered them $200 a month, that would be $2,400. That from 5,500 is, do the math. So, like I said, it could be
We can go to
$15 a
them and
month.
say, okay, here's your two options. Everybody show us which option you want. And then they can come back and we come back with you with the different numbers.
I need a number though, obviously.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I can call them and ask each one of them if it comes down to it. I mean, I can call them all, but.
Well, that was said in the meeting, that was brought up, and that we would let them know if that was an option, and then I can, disregard their application. But if that's just you all coming up with a number, then, so we can
Well,
present it.
What do you think would be attractive number to a volunteer fireman who says, oh, I don't need the insurance, my wife has it, I'll take, what number is attractive to them?
If the cost is 461 a month, I mean, to me, half of that. I mean, I'm sure I'd have quite a few guys say, well, 461, but that's not getting us anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's 461, they may not need.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants $50, $100, $200, whatever that is, that's still less than what we'd pay them on a monthly basis for the insurance.
Right there.
Yeah.
To my thought would be, 225, cut it right in half. Or 250, something like that.
Well, if you approve the incentive and let's say you get 30 firemen,
How much is that gonna save? How much would that change that one
Number.
number? If that happened?
that's 30 firemen at $200.
Well, that's a PowerPoint presentation.
Right.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't change it, but it's a picture.
If you get 30 firemen they're available for this incentive, let's just say you get your numbers up to 30 and we're going to pay them $200. So that's $6,000 times 12. That's 72,000 we'd pay if all 30 said, I don't want the insurance. I got my wife, or I'll just take the 200 a month and wing it if I get any insurance, whatever.
I get it, but there's gonna be several.
There are
saying,
some
"Hey,
that still want that
I'd really like
insurance,
to have
or
that insurance."
self-employed for sure.
If
That
it's
might
an
be
option.
something up to 200. Right.
Well, you'd have to do that.
I'd have to
wouldn't
check with the municipal league on that, because that's not considered, it might be considered a qualifying event, but I don't think so, since that's just us making something up,
you? I don't know if you can see how it would work
I mean,
for a year.
obviously, that's something, we have to offer that to our employees, but
Mhm. I hope
all
they
our
all take it.
employees are already signed up.
I hope every one of them takes it. The incentive, I mean.
Well, I think that, the chief, needs to probably go back and just, again,
Talk to the fireman.
talk to the firemen, talk to
I
his
agree to
officers and
that.
see exactly.
And ask them what
in his
they
budget,
would
if he
like to
can,
do.
feel like he can absorb that extra 60,000 or whatever Tom said it's going to
Yeah.
be.
But so what amount, you're thinking 250?
I thought he said like,
I'm a 200 gal if you're talking about the incentive deal.
I think we need an amount, because otherwise they're gonna be like,
oh, no, I'm not really talking about the 250. I'm just talking about the insurance at all. Saying still, just offering it just like it is, like we we talked to them, Tuesday night, to just say that, to say that,
That's
if
up to you
everybody
guys.
did that,
I know, but
30,
And I
30
did that.
guys.
I told them that that was something that they were in discussions, but if we go back over there and say, all right, y'all can either have insurance, or if you already have insurance at your full-time position, we can offer you 200 a month in lieu of that. But we need to have an amount.
So
be able to go
for
through
Danielle,
this now.
what say ye of a incentive?
Yeah, for me to calculate the.
I'm a 200 a month guy.
I mean, we need to be able to tell the firemen give them the proper information.
I like
so
the
they can
200.
choose.
Steve, 200.
Well, I mean, could we, I mean, a
It's
call
just
to,
yes or no.
call to City or El Dorado might be a
Don't care about
wise
El
thing to
Dorado.
do and say,
Don't care about El
Well,
Dorado.
They're getting 400, about
Right.
450 a month is what El Dorados get. That's
What's
what
their
we're-
tax
El
base?
Dorado,
What's their
we're
tax
taking-
revenue? I don't care
What
about
is
El
their-
Dorado, Alma, Hackett,
I
Stuttgart.
guess,
I just need an amount that we can,
Jesus.
Just opposed to the $200 and see if they like it.
I think,
Yes.
I
Then you
think,
better
back to your
figure that
can,
in.
back to your can of worms. I mean, I know you're on the.
Right.
2,400, basically giving them
You
$2,400
don't
a
offer
year.
all your.
Yes. That's a sin.
So you
Which,
better
like you said, it'd be
prepare
nice
for
if
that.
everyone of them-
Increased costs
I'd like to have
everywhere.
insurance and-
You're allowed
So it's not just applicable, that incentive of whether or not to take health insurance, right? That's what you're talking about. Take money or take health insurance. That's what you're talking-
And I don't want that.
The opinion is that it needs to be for the whole city's. employees.
oh, absolutely, yeah, and I said that earlier, yeah.
So that would be
Just to let you
something
know.
that Tom, we need a number from Tom on.
Right.
Well, I mean, yeah, y'all need a number to get me so that way Tom can.
200.
I'm waiving my 200 for
I say 200.
the city's
Okay.
insurance. I
And as
don't get
far
it.
as offering it to the rest of them, that's something I will have to check with municipal league to see if that's considered a qualifying event or something that we
We're not,
produced.
we
or
didn't
not.
vote, but take a 200 number.
Okay,
Y'all good with that?
Right.
Test it,
And then you come back with us.
Mr. Meeker. Yes. Macy.
$200
I'm
a month.
waiving,
Yeah.
I'm waiving my $200.
It's good.
That's for the record.
All right, you got something to
okay.
check on.
So we're gonna do that and try to come back to you by when? Are you still wanting us to try to meet the,
Man, it'd be nice to be able to be able for them guys to go home and say, heck yeah, we got it March 1st, party
That's a-
time.
You know, that's a special call meeting.
Is that a special call
Yeah, do a
meeting?
special-
Well, it's after 5, I don't care. I got nothing else to do these
I'd
days.
say, probably need a month. I mean, guys have gone without it this long, and they can go by, another month.
That's the,
Yeah, but
Amazing.
where's
That
February?
kind of messes up the.
Well, it doesn't mess anything up per se because they made up the date. I mean, they can push it a month.
Okay.
you municipal league can?
So you're good with waiting until next month's meeting?
All right.
Yeah, I think that that's
Chief.
fine. If we go back, I'll go
I'm
to your
fine
next
with that,
meeting with you. and
yeah,
Chief
we'll explain
agreed.
it again.
We'll get it all taken care of.
So this
Hopefully
number
you can-
12.
Thanks
need to be
for
on the
working
next
with us,
agenda?
guys, because I mean,
Yes.
both of us are like,
So
you know,
then
what are we
tw-
gonna do if we have to go back over there and tell them,
Uh,
this is not working out? So I think it will. I think actually it'll be good for everybody in the city.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't feel it.
There you go.
Okay, so does 8 and 12 need to be on the next agenda for March?
Cause that's kind of the sin
The incentive and the health insurance?
in the health
discussion?
insurance.
Now, the other one,
Yeah,
Had to
incentive
do-
and health.
the other
One
one,
of them says
the other one
response.
had to do with, the incentive at night. Y'all want
Oh,
to
I think,
discuss it while I'm here? Or that was just doing the 2-hour minimum like everybody else at the city has right now that's comes in.
Do you want to table that too until
We
Rod
can-
can
we
be here
can-
because he was
we can
really
table it,
interested in
yeah.
it? it
We
seemed
can
like.
table that too.
Yeah.
It's not hurting anybody right now.
Okay, 8 and 12 table.
Okay,
Thank
we need
you,
a
Chief.
motion.
Need
I
a
make a
motion?
motion to table.
Second.
Motion second.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Meeker,
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Rainwater?
Yes.
Tedford?
yes.
That's unanimous. I'll put those on the mark.
You'll opt out.
Thank you. Number 9, city clerk treasurer ordinance repealing, replacing competitive bid ordinance 24-09 with an emergency passage.
So the emergency passage, I don't believe is applicable. The only reason I put it under an emergency was because right now there's an error in our existing ordinance that says $35,000 instead of $5,000 there on the spending limit. So as long as you're okay with that, the major change is in section 6. That is something that Mr. Powell asked for. He told me on the phone when he was telling me that he wasn't gonna be here tonight. I asked him about this. He said that he's good with first reading on this as it is.
he's good with it, we'll put it on his first reading.
Is that your motion?
Motion.
Now, on section 6, it looks like it's reading that you're gonna come back and we'll get to see some bids open like we used to get bids open here in council meetings. It says,
Yeah, but it's not limited to just regular meetings. It could be a special meeting.
well, it says right, I'm just saying, we've gone away from that for some reason where we didn't get to see the bid openings anymore.
Yes, that is exactly what it's doing, but the Water and Wastewater and Parks Commission would remain at their discretion. Meaning in their meetings, open it.
Yeah, it's kind of putting it back the way. I mean, it could be a special called meeting or whatever, but it's going to be where the council can see all bids.
Not water and wastewater.
Water,
and parks.
wastewater.
Oh, yeah, not water, wastewater.
I mean, you'll know them, and I will have them on YouTube as long as I'm aware of them, and I'll record them and give you minutes, just like I do.
There was motion.
Yes.
Put it on first reading by title only.
Motion second.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Meeker,
Yes.
Mr. Terry,
Wait a minute, did you take out the emergency clause or not?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, yes, then.
Mr. Rainwater,
Yes.
Mr. Tedford,
Yes.
passes. Motion carries. An ordinance repealing ordinance number 24-09, establishing bidding procedures, authorizing the mayor to make purchases and enter into contracts on behalf of the city for all purchases, defining professional services, waiving competitive bidding for professional services, and authorizing the waiving of competitive bidding on the purchaser contracts when not feasible or practicable, as may be otherwise authorized by state law and for other purposes.
All right, thank you. Number 10, City Clerk Treasurer Resolution amending Resolution 12501, adding water, wastewater positions to salary matrix.
This was voted on by the Water Wastewater Commission, and they are passing it on to you for formal adoption because I'm adamant that this salary matrix is a document that is, under the city council's discretion. So any changes made to it, we need to formally adopt it again or amend it. So that's what this is. It's adding 2 positions to their portions of this matrix.
That's what's highlighted or darkened.
And one small change to equipment operator on wastewater.
We're getting rid of a CDL license for the equipment operator.
For wastewater.
Do we have somebody that can pull all the equipment?
Yes,
He's making it like the other one.
water distribution.
But, water distribution, that one, the same. I can't explain it like Tim could of why that's
They
being
don't need a
eliminated.
CDL anymore, is that what we're?
They never had to have a CDL. I put it in there as a requirement, hoping that they would take that step and do it. I've got a guy that's been operating equipment expertly for 5 years. He's not been getting paid for it. He doesn't want to get the license. When you get the license, there's a lot more stringent things that you're responsible for.
Well, I don't mind that. I'm just saying we do have somebody that can pull stuff.
I do have one guy that has a CDL that can pull stuff. That is correct. I'm sorry.
That's all I was just wondering.
You're exactly right. I do have one guy that has that.
I'm assuming the street department does too,
I think they do.
Okay.
You are.
Casey
Very
has
nice.
parks.
There's no pay increase, Casey. Could be. All right, what do you think, gentlemen?
I mean, I don't see any problem with this. I'll make a motion. We pass this resolution, amending the resolution.
Yeah.
Brown,
Motion second.
Yes.
Mr. Meeker,
Yes.
Mr. Terry,
Yes.
Mr. Rainwater,
Yes.
Mr. Tedford,
Yes.
unanimous.
Thank you. Where we at? Tom, Mr. Marsh, 2023 legislative audit report.
This is always the fun time. All right, so in 2025, February, we are reviewing the 2023's fiscal year. That's because they do the audits late in the year. We're trying to get that moved up so that we'll have more timely information. Just consider that what you're hearing is not only 2023, but they also do subsequent events, and some of those are mentioned in the notes to the financials. So the first thing I wanted you to have in front of you is the actual audit. That is your copy. Please don't leave it around you. Take it with you. The page numbers that are on there are the audit page numbers. So when I refer to a page number, the numbers are there already printed. That is a front and back document. So the independent auditor's report ended with an unmodified opinion on regulatory basis of accounting. And what they basically said in there is that it presents fairly in all material respects. The regulatory basis financial position of the general fund and street fund and other funds in the aggregate of the city of Greenwood, Arkansas. What it doesn't make any comments about or audit is the water sewer. And that's because they have their own separate audit. Now, there is an adverse opinion. I go over this every year just so you realize if you read that and you go, oh my gosh, they're saying our financials do not present fairly. They don't present fairly according to the GAAP, according to general accepted accounting principles. As far as the reasons for it, the base for the adverse opinion is listed on page 1 down at the bottom. And it says the financial statements are prepared by the city on the basis of the financial reporting provisions from the Arkansas Code. And that basis really is a modified cash basis. And it doesn't contain water sewer. It's a little incomplete as far as the total picture of the city. And it's not presented in the form that GAAP wants it presented. Our financials do not have or are required to record certain things on that modified cash basis, such as depreciation. We don't have to record our assets on the books. They are recorded, however, when the legislative audit comes and changes this to an accrual basis of accounting position. So that's all that's going by. We really look only at the top where it's looking for an unmodified opinion. Remember, these audits are then after you review them and you approve them or you accept them. They are then transmitted or sent to our bonding companies and various other entities and organizations that require our audited financials. One of the things I do want to point out on page 2, and it's becoming more and more of a concern to certain municipalities now, is in preparing the financial statement, we are required to evaluate whether there are conditions or events considering in their aggregate that raise substantial doubt about the city's ability to continue as a going concern for 12 months beyond the financial statement date. Now, they do read all of the city council minutes and they review all the city council documents. And they do also review the budgets, making sure that there's not anything in there of concern. And one of the things they look at is your debt structure, and they look at what you're going to be financing in the next 12 months. And being that this audit is being done a year afterwards, the subsequent events would be, for instance, when they did this audit, there wasn't a $750,000 loan to the Parks Department. So that is a subsequent event. And they did take that into consideration. I do want to, under the bullet points, this is what the auditors have to make a representation on. Conclude whether in their judgment there are conditions or events considered in the aggregate that raise substantial doubt about the city's ability to continue as a going concern for a reasonable period of time. And there's no concerns right now, but I want you to know they take that under advisement with discussions with all directors and with management. So those are the factors that go into whether they think there's some red flags for the future. And then they would report them in here. So you always look for that when you look at these audit reports. At this point, back on 23's audit, they didn't see anything that would rise to the level of whether they had any concerns the city would continue. Down on page, now we're going to the independence audit report. It says about one of the problems that they have is the report on internal controls over financial reporting. That's always going to be there. They talk about the fact that obviously being lean and mean works against you as far as the segregation duty matrix is concerned. The more you bring on comfortably but efficiently helps to mitigate that independent segregation of duty section there. And that independence of function is something that they look at and take very seriously, but it says our considerations are limited was for the limited purpose described in the first paragraph, not designed to identify all deficiencies in internal control that might be material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. Given these limitations during our audit, we did not identify deficiencies in the internal control that we consider to be material weaknesses. However, just to cover themselves, material weaknesses or significant deficiencies still may exist, but were not identified. So if they're limiting their considerations to what they tested and what they reviewed. And their tests are not all 100% of all transactions. Now, on the management letter, this is something that you do look at in previous years. We try to keep things off of this as far as some of the findings are concerned. And you'll notice on this one, there are two findings that basically they raised an issue with. The first one was under the mayor, and it says the city did not solicit bids for the purchase of a Parks Department truck in the amount of $40,000 in non-compliance with Arkansas code. And that's because there was, and we explained it to them, that was because there was some miscommunication and misconception about how you go about buying from the bid board or whatever. In this case, that was the misconception, that this was represented as being something that the award was given to that company just for that truck. However, it wasn't, and we talked about what to do about that, and we talked about with Casey and the Parks Department about how they actually have to procedurally go through and get whoever's awarded that truck or that vehicle that they're looking at. We also had some information provided by the police department because they do these all the time. So it's a learning curve, and that was the reason. Now, that number, that dollar amount was not materially different than the actual awarded contract under the state. It's just the procedural process wasn't done. It didn't really cost more in total from what the truck would have costed under the state awarded bid.
So you're saying we just need to kind of mimic what the police
Yeah,
department
we
did?
need to look at and buy the exact item that was awarded with all the stuff that's on that truck, all of the options, and then buy what was awarded by the state for that year. And so that was the first one. And it says during our analysis of invoices, 28th of July 22 and 19th of April 24, related to the pedestrian bridge project. And that came up, two of the things that they said was the competitive bids were not solicited for cost totaling $520,000. But one of the reasons for that was that Holmes Erection, there's very few companies that would have done the fabrication for that bridge. And that was one of the reasons we chose not to, or they chose to accept them. And I think there might have been, I don't even know if you guys waived that. But the invoices totaling 473 were supported without adequate documentation, rather approved without adequate documentation. And that 64,000 of those invoices were approved by a council member. And if you recall, that project wasn't supposed to basically cost us anything. It was supposed to be a fully donated, funded project, and it got all taken out of the realm of that possibility when the bridge was not awarded the ability to transfer the old Iron Bridge RDOT grant to that. We got the yes, it can be, and then we proceeded with it. And then we were told when we submitted documentation to them that, wait a minute, you already did the engineering, we can't transfer to a project that's already underway. So when Holmes took it over and started the fabrication, it was a done deal. RDOT was out of it. So that caused a punt situation. So those are the explanations behind that. Legislative audit, totally aware of it. And then the other issue was the fact that we had an $8,349 amount that was that hit our general fund that was alerted to us by a company, by the bank rather, that this person who stole one of our checks apparently out of a mailbox, or they confiscated it somehow, and they modified it to be deposited for a nefarious purpose. And once we found out about it, we stopped it and we kicked it back to the company, the bank that called us, and they fully were aware that that was coming back. They did not refute it, and we were not harmed in that transaction. Since then, we have gone to, that general fund is now restricted. Every transaction's being reviewed until such time as they give us the go-ahead for them to fully implement the positive pay process. So we've implemented that with Farmers Bank, and the hiccup in that was that we needed the payee to also be verified. It's very easy to do positive pay on the date, the dollar amount, the account number, but it's difficult to then looking for our file that we give them on every check run we do to validate against a payee. So they had to go back to their people that do their work for positive pays and add that feature, and they're in the process of rolling that back out to us. Once that happens, they'll lift the restriction and we'll be fully functional on electronic positive basis.
Was there any action, legal or otherwise? Did we find out who wrote the check?
Well, it's that we filed a police report with it, but which is usually what we do. But the harmed party is the bank that was initially presented to. So they're the ones that have it now. They accepted our recent kickback of that back to them and said, it's not a valid, it's a fraudulent transaction. So
I'm just saying the person that doctored the check, just nothing happened to them.
I have no clue. That legality and that charge is going to be with the bank that's harmed, not with us. So once we're out of it, I don't want to ever hear what happened to them. I don't even know if I'm pretty sure.
Was the check mailed, or do you know?
It was a mail check. All of our checks are done. Another thing that we've done now is based on your approval, is we do all of our utilities and all of our payments that are to those water, not the water, but the
Utilities.
scenic solar utility payments. Those are all done online now. So we take out the check.
Can you go over what exactly happened again?
One of our checks was mailed to a vendor of ours, and it was a utility vendor, believe it or not. And it went to that person's house. That's where the check went. And the belief is that check was taken out of the mailbox by somebody who opens the mailbox and grabs it. We've had that happen to the water department as well here locally. And then they wash the check and they keep our signatures. They just take out the payee. That's all they did on this check. They did not change anything else. They didn't change the date to the check. They didn't change the dollar amount. They didn't change the account. The check looked perfect, except the payee was this new payee. And when that person then apparently that check went all the way up to New York, and then it got into a bank, Fidelity something. And they're the ones that called us and said, this doesn't look right. Why would the city of Greenwood be writing something to this outfit? And so they called and challenged it, and we told them, no, it's fraud. That is not who the payee on that check was. And so everybody punted back. We filed a police report, and we were never harmed.
Okay.
We got it recouped.
Wow.
Now, they did attempt one more time. There was another check that came through with the dollar amount changed and the payee, but that check was caught in our restriction on our account. So they're looking at every single general fund check that goes through their bank. And they will continue to do that until the positive pay system, we're ready on our end. We've sent them the test file. They're not ready on
What is their holdup on that?
their system. Their people that do that software is still working with them to make sure that they catch the payees.
To interface with their.
It's their interface, yeah. So that's that. Now, they called it an issue, but we also told them in our response what steps we took to make sure that doesn't happen again. But that general fund, if we had to close that account, is huge. There's so much that goes through that account, state tax revenues, everything is direct deposited there. We had to change that account number, and the amount of outstanding checks, just nightmare. Although they would be watching those. So the remedy that we did actually works for both us and the bank.
You mentioned something
What is
about
the remedy?
online pay
Yeah.
that we approved. You know how long ago that was?
Early last year, wasn't it? 24. I mean, it happened shortly after this issue in 23. It was early.
Seems like it was in
24.
August, wasn't it? Or no? April?
It wasn't, it hasn't been too long. We've only been doing it like 3 or 4 months.
It looks like it says here from Citibank account on August 7th, 2024.
I thought it was summer.
I'm just usually a anti-non-paper guy. Half of my livelihood comes from delivering paper.
Oh,
So
that's true. Well, do it accurately and then we wouldn't have to do it.
Yeah, August. All right.
Ouch.
I didn't
If you want to tell her that he said that.
she just wanted trash cans moved on the curb, off the curb, that's all.
We've had an increase in all of this ever since the mail has been rerouted up to Fayetteville, and it's happened to go through a process center up there, so it's a never ending battle. So if we go to the balance sheet on page 7, there's a column there called other funds in the aggregate. That's the balance sheet under regulatory, and it shows the assets and liability and fund balances. You'll see restricted, assigned, and unassigned. Those are the 3 categories that they do. And you'll see what the dollar amounts were in 2023. And then that column on the far right says other funds in the aggregate. And if you want a list of those, they're in the back of this audit. There's a note telling you exactly what it is. It's A&P funds. At that time, it was ARPA funds to the tune of $1,125,000. The street CSUT funds, the payroll fund, and then non-uniformed employee pension, and so on. Those are the types of accounts that are non-categorized under general, specific, and street. That's why they just lump them all together, because in the aggregate, they're kind of lesser than the other 2. The next regulatory basis, statement of revenues and expenditures, these numbers you can review, and if you have any questions specifically about them, I can go tell you what makes those up. But I wanted to go to page 9 on that, just to show you on the bottom, the revenues over expenditure line. In 2023, the general fund actually had a surplus, we call it a surplus instead of net income, but surplus 569,600, but the street department showing a loss of, or a deficit of 368,000. In 2022, both had surpluses. That's why I was alerting you that there's problems, there's underfunding in this account as the expenditures far exceed rather the amount of the cost of the operation of that department. So you see it there starting in 2023. And 2024 is going to look pretty much very similar to that. There was already if you look at the financials for 2024 O&M for street, they showed a deficit of over $250,000. And we've already talked about that. And you'll see the revenues broken out by, on the next page, page 10, by the type of revenues by category. So you can see how much the property taxes were, the franchise fees, the state aid, and it's pretty much broke out by street and general. So it gives you something to ponder when you are considering the revenue streams. And now I really want to go to more of the notes to not take up too much of your time, because the notes to the financials talk about specific things that are germane to how you administer ordinances and how you administer the resolutions that are pertaining to budgets and spending. So this page 12 starts all the notes to the financials. The basis of the presentations are listed there. I'm not going to read through those. Some of the things I do want, the first few pages just talk about what is their true definition of the basis for accounting, regulatory, assets, liability balances, property tax budget law on page 14. Get to page 15 and you talk about the cash deposits with the financial institutions. This is where I always talk about the collateral credit risk, or the secondary risk, if you will. This is all the monies that are in the bank. The bank balance as of December 31st of 2023 was $10,352,000, which we collateralized $9,000,001, and they have uninsured or uncollateralized $915,000 of that coming from various other instruments. I'll have to go back and talk about what that makes up. It says that the city does not have a depository policy for custodial credit risk. And that comes about by they invest in the market, Farmers Bank for the most part, invests in the market the amount that we have to be collateralization in that investment. So it covers the amount if the bank were to default. However, some of those investments are not insured or collateralized. And if they were to default, that puts us into the aspect of not all of our money would come back to us because we would lose that amount that was on the collateralization side. And so that's something that they're not asking us to have a response to, but they are pointing it out because of the fact that it is a risk. And it says that the city doesn't have a policy for that. And we could look at our collateralization policy with Farmers Bank and force that issue with them to try to mitigate some of that $1 million.
It doesn't specifically mention Farmers Bank in here anywhere, correct?
Right.
I say that because would it be the same if it was any other bank, or is it just because Farmers is locally?
Nope, it's because that's where all the money is. There's a large percent
Right.
of the money. We still have some money in First National Bank, but not to that extent. All of our major funds are there. So they have a large collateralization on that.
So why are these funds not collateralized?
They're all collateralized.
We've got uninsured and uncollateralized
Yeah,
at
that's what they're
950.
talking about on the secondary risk. So that's what they're saying. It's not collateralized if what they're investing in is not collateralized, we're at risk.
Right.
Because they treat that as uncollateralized.
Okay. Okay. Got
So
it.
we can make a policy or go down and see if we can modify the collateralization agreement we have with farmers. There's other ways to mitigate that, and that is don't put all your eggs in one basket. What you could do is you could say that water street funds have to go to one bank. All the other accounts that we have that are payroll and various others go to another bank. And then the general fund, the lion's share of that in street stays with farmers. And then they'll all have to do the collateralization as well. But it will be lesser for doing, that's one way to do it. But right now it's all there and we're working very close with them. When I first came here, we were not collateralized, even with that investing. We had to go talk to them and say, you're not meeting your agreement.
They just dropped the ball or something.
Yeah,
Somebody wasn't checking. They got right with it too. They were like, oh.
and they're very good. I mean, we get
Yeah, they
reports
addressed
every
it
month
immediately.
showing how much is collateralized. I do a collateralization report. They get 12 of them, the auditors do, and then they go and look at all the investments, what it's invested in, and then they have a way of saying whether that investment is secure or not. Secondarily, because it's a risk back to us.
Because it's basically, I mean, anything over, again, the 250,000 is not, like saying, insured.
Well, the FDI insured amounts is 316,000 there, but they're looking at all cash right now. Then the next notes talk about the public fund investments. So if you wanted to read all about what makes up the public funds and how it's invested, stocks, mutual funds, fixed income, U.S. government obligations, corporate bonds, non-marketable. That's the breakout between what they consider level 1, 2, and 3, and then the total. But that's in public fund investments. Accounts receivables there, talks about accounts payable. Now, we provide them a list of, in order to get to that number, we have to provide them a list of what is monies that we receive in 25 that are actually 24 monies, and that's considered a receivable. And then they have also the payables. We have to give them anything that we paid in 25 that was a 24 liability, and that's an accrued liability in the 24 year. So we have to keep up with that. Legal debt limit, though, on page 18, that's what you should really be looking at every audit, because it gives you the amount that we are subject to a ceiling on. So there are two types of legal debt limits. One is the property tax secured bonded debt. And it says that we're subject to 20% of the total assessed value for tax purposes. So the more you increase your property tax revenues from, I do that, either grow the city or annex, growing the city. As long as you increase your property base, tax base, that would increase that debt ceiling. And I'm not advocating that we have to go out and increase the debt ceiling. That's probably the last thing you need to be looking at. You try to live more in your means. But right now, the bonded debt was, at the legal debt limit for the bonded debt was $27 million. We're not anywhere close to that. As far as the property tax is concerned. And short-term financing obligations, that's when we go down and get an operating loan at the bank. It's 5% of the assessed value of the tangible property within the city. That's our asset values. So it's $7 million. And right now, as a result of 23, they only had 312,000 out in outstanding debt for the general side. That was the fire truck. And that's all spelled out in detail on the next few pages. So at the 23 year end, we had 6,700,000 added towards that debt ceiling. In 24, they went and got 750,000 for the splash pad. That's added to the new number for the fire department's debt. So we took about $1 million of that in one lump sum. Next page, page 19 talks about the bonds and the direct borrowings. The farm, it says right here, the fixed under direct borrowings, finance purchase payable dated July 28th of 21. Farmers Bank had the amount of 566,000. That's the amount that's paid for that truck. And as of the end of 2023, the amount left was a debt of 312,000. And in 24, that number will drop to 190,565, and the debt goes away August of 26. By the way, the fire truck is the collateral. It talks about the fact that if there's a default, that they would go after what collateralized that, and that would be it. They would also own a splash pad if we didn't pay on that too. I don't think they want that.
That's an option.
If you go to page 20, though, you will see on there the long-term debt. It gives you the details. It shows you the actual interest rate range for the bond, and it shows the actual interest rate for direct borrowings. So the fire truck, you can't get a 2.75% loan.
No.
So that was pretty good. One of the things that it shows at the very bottom was the debt service, the bond for the road. And it, we did get a 40-year bond on that, but that was with absolutely no growth from the date the bond was set in the city sales and use tax, which is being used solely for that bond. It's not, it says we can use it for whatever we want, any investment, any amounts over. But what that bond is designed to do is it's designed to pay as additional paid capital from the back end to lower the period of time before that bond is retired. So if you look at the year 2034 to 38, we're thinking 2036, 39, somewhere in there would be, given our rate of city sales and use tax growth, which has been positive, well over the 3% that we anticipated it to be so far, that if we were to pay off early, which is what we're anticipating, we would be looking at that 2039 period. That would save us interest of about $1.8 million on that. And it would pay it off early. So we have to keep watching that, and remember the money that's sitting there all the while, it's not yet having to be paid, because I think they make 2 payments a year. Maybe it's 1, I don't know. Some are 2 and some are 1 payments of principal and interest on it. We would be looking at them investing that, and they do, and we're earning interest on that. We say the bank, but it's money that is above and beyond what's necessary to make these payments. But they're holding it.
And that's for the bypass,
Yes.
whatever truck route we were calling it.
Yeah.
While we're on that, just real quick, how much did we, I know that Doc Burgess gave us a good deal, obviously, on the land. Do you remember what the total was we paid for
For the property?
the property?
Well, was it 40 for the first part? And then you bought the orphan land?
About what?
Well, the 9 acres
The
between.
acreage that
Oh,
was
between
orphaned.
orphan.
I
That was
I didn't-
useless for them.
Yeah, no, no, it was,
70 or 80, probably lower than that.
yeah,
I can go back and look.
I'm not sure.
That's a Good question.
It's just that your normal internet jokers talking about how that was donated to us, and
Yeah, it's,
Oh, no.
Right.
Never donated.
I was just trying to put that on
Bargain
the-
purchase price.
on the
Yeah.
record. It's certainly bargain
good
purchase.
price, but not done.
That was good.
In case any of those squirrels are watching or listening, I just want them to know that it wasn't donated.
It was not free.
Yeah.
And then if you go to page 21, talks about pledged revenues. Any sales tax collected in excess of debt service payments and these bonds is permitted to be used for any lawful purpose. Well, I just told you that it's being used to pay down additionally in the back end. So we can call that bond earlier and get rid of it with money already in the bank. Now, if you wanted to read about all the city's local or interlocal agreements that we have, where there's some sort of liability to, there's the district court judge, it's listed on 21, and then 22 gives you the remainder of it. The hazmat response program, the metropolitan planning organization, and the regional crisis stabilization unit. They're all listed there with a very fine narrative about what it is and what you've approved.
So when is all that approving going on? For all these percentages of all these and hazmat, when does the council say, okay?
I believe, well, number one, it's all in your budget, but how long did the agreement last? I mean, this is not a.
Is there a housekeeping deal where we every year say, yep, we're good, we'll keep that going?
I think so.
What is it?
All these
Asking
interlocal
how
agreements,
long
I'm
we-
wondering,
how long
when
we-
do we vote on them to say yay?
I'd have to go-
Yeah,
you'd
let's
have to go
talk.
back
I
and read
couldn't
the
hear it
agreement.
again.
Okay, on page 21 and 22 of this
Yeah.
audit, we're talking about interlocal agreements, it's talking about our portion of this to the judge, this to that, this to
Yes.
hazmat, this to. I'm just wondering when we update, upgrade, say yes, agree to.
That was done, figured way back when. Mayor every year has to sign along with those other mayors that we commit to that.
Okay, all right, no, that's fine.
She- I
I'm
think
just
the
wondering, when
question
does
is
the people that control the money commit to the money that he's signing for?
I don't know.
Well, somebody's cutting them a check.
Mm,
Oh, well, yeah, we
Yeah,
do.
we cut the check.
What, I mean, so
We
what,
have to pay it.
where's that come out of, I guess?
Comes out of the general.
General fund, it's in the
It's in
budget.
the budget.
So,
It's a
I
state
think-
mandated
I
thing
think
too.
Probably your answer is when you approve the budget,
No, that
it's,
comes out of the city, out of the fire department.
Yeah.
But it's still
When you're-
general.
when you're approving the budget, you're approving.
Not the district court judge fee though.
We're under.
Is that,
I've never heard this one time when we're passing the budget, say, this is for all the interlocal agreements.
I know.
It'd be nice to know if that's
I mean,
what we're
it's-
going
it's a
towards,
question, but
just in case
I
there's,
don't know where they are.
you know? I still don't know where they are.
And remember, these were the ones in effect December of 2023.
Well, and I'm sure they're all still in effect. Cause I haven't heard anybody say, well, we're saving money, not paying whoever this. I'm just checking. I mean, we're talking about transparency. And I'm trying to see who I don't want to pay anymore.
What line item in the general fund expenses is that?
Exactly.
Look at the budget
I'll
out.
have to look at the budget. I didn't memorize those.
Well, I mean,
They're all there because we do cut the checks.
I wonder if they have a total somewhere of all those
it would be in the general fund. of
interlocal
course.
agreements so we can maybe find it real easy.
He does.
Oh.
Will you hand me Rod's budget? I'll look. I'll give it back to him.
I mean, I just,
no, good to know.
Well,
I don't
I'm
recall
pretty
ever
sure
reading this before.
It
This is
was
only
agreed
my
upon
The
18th
one that
and
would
then
be
it's
audit.
like
questionable
several.
would be that regional crisis
Program
stabilization
is going.
unit. That's the one that we kind of really had
Change.
we're gonna get
No.
Is this the hospital for the crazy folks,
No,
not
it's not
someone
up
in a
to
jail
us.
or
deal?
something like, yeah.
Yeah.
We agreed
It was
into it.
voluntary injection with the,
It's voluntary.
Yeah.
We haven't paid anything. on
Oh, we haven't?
that. Mhm. Damn, you haven't, I don't think they sent anybody over there.
That's good.
So far, I don't think that's.
I don't know what happens if we don't agree to it, because that has never happened.
Well, we're
They
going,
actually come here and they discuss it with you guys, that what you're gonna be paying for some of these. I know
The
that
one-
the,
This district court judge one, I think it was mandated by the state, and we all said we'd share this much, and I don't know who figured all that out, but we renew that or keep that going every year it's signed. I know that much.
yeah, this is something that obviously to, in essence of time, we can banter over when we do the budgets next year, but right now we're kind of locked into it.
well, I just thought, I know Charlotte gives us some stuff every now and then. It's like, this is a housekeeping deal, the 5% meal, or whatever deal, that thing. And so I just thought, I just wondered.
66,500.
Yeah.
Yeah. The district court costs is an allocation of the district judge's fees. That thing was decided once, and now I don't know why in perpetuity we keep going. And it does have something to do with a state law, I believe.
Is it 543? That's not it. Is it?
Don't know. I mean,
I
we
love
pay
our
like
district judge, so I
$12,000.
don't mind paying whatever we had to pay for it.
Anyway. All right, well,
I don't think we can opt out
Boy.
without war coming down.
getting a wealth of information.
I would just just like to know where that's at.
What do you say?
Yeah,
I
well,
just cutting checks and saying, here we go. You know, I know.
Gut checks.
Oh.
Risk management. I want to talk about that on page 23. That is a note there that talks about if there were some, any, let's say fraudulent acts created or perpetrated by an employee, there's a program that we have, it's Self-Insured Fidelity Bond Program. It's administered by the Governmental Bonding Board. There's a $2,500 deductible for that, and it covers any officials or employees acting alone or in collusion with others during the bond period, not to exceed the lesser of $300,000 or the amount of the bond, whatever the bond was. So that's in place. Then right below that, note 16 and down would be all the retirement programs and a description of those programs and what basically it involves. We have the clerk treasurer retirement benefits. We have the LOPP. We have the city attorney retirement benefits, which is now, we pay that through the, same with the clerk treasurer. Non-uniformed employee pension plan, and then the Sebastian County District Court. Member of the Sebastian County District Court under Arkansas Code. This is the state one. In order to defray the expenses of operating the court, City of Greenwood contributes 10% of the net fines and pays 10% of the court salaries. And we, it's under the, usually the police.
I wish you would have that Arkansas code over here on this other deal too. Much, maybe it's the same.
And I believe that's about all of the highlights there. On page 27, those are all the other funds described. And you'll see that every year as we take away and add various accounts for temporary purposes that we listed there.
Oh, yeah, that's what you were talking about earlier, the footnote.
Those are
Okay.
the other in the aggregate.
Okay, good.
Hey, Tim, I found the amount for Burgess. It was, we paid 4,000 an acre up to 27 acres, so 108,000.
That is exactly what we paid. 108.
$108,000.
That wasn't the amount of the original road, though. That was the additional acreage that we bought that became orphaned.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Fantastic work, Mr. Marsh.
That pilot program for that judge's salary that we share with these other cities, it was established in 2010. And it was established by the state of Arkansas to install 25 state district court judgeships. And Sebastian County was one of the counties that participated in that program. And the county came to us and asked us cities within Sebastian County to share the cost. So we just keep doing it. I don't know anything really beyond that. So we can dig into it if
Yeah,
you
let's
want.
do.
You want to?
You betcha.
All right.
We're trying to find money.
Chief,
If it's not a state
to date,
law.
have we utilized that facility? That's all right. To
This is a
date,
different.
oh, this is different?
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, never mind.
That's a different interlocal
Oh, the
agreement.
judges, okay.
But still, I mean,
But the interlocal agreement we have on the facility, we have yet to use that, correct? The county
that mental health.
mental
one.
health.
Oh, you talking about the crisis?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, we use it.
Oh,
Okay.
I didn't know that. Yes.
We use it as much as we can.
Okay, good. Well, that's good because,
We're competing, they have 16 beds, we're competing with
Right. okay. Well, I mean, it's not good that we have to, but it's good to, no, you're fine. You're good.
The cost of that by putting them there is less than what it would be to put them in jail.
Yeah, right.
But just so you know that the agreement is if their expenses exceed what the revenue stream is for them, then all the participating
Go up.
cities
Yeah.
and county have to pay,
Got it.
have to figure out the allocation and pay up in order to make it whole. And that has not happened yet. We haven't gotten the bill.
If I may add, if you look at the news, Washington County has shut down several times. There's only a certain amount of CSUs in the state. Washington County, Sebastian County's one. Washington County has brought folks down here to Sebastian County. Sebastian County's been fortunate enough to stay open, but it's all based on funding. But if we can take people with mental health there versus the jail, it's better for everybody involved.
Is that, I toured that when it was open. Is that increase? Is it still the same amount of beds?
16 beds was last, they'd like to make it bigger
Yeah.
and hopefully there's some funding, but just not a lot of funding toward it.
Still
to fund.
located the same in that?
Yes, sir.
facility?
Well, we need to be making sure that when they come back to us, which I'm sure they will wanting more money, that the people from Washington or Crawford, or whoever that happen to be bringing some folks down on occasion are anteing up a little bit.
Participate.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Right, I have nothing to do with that.
I know.
But I mean, the appropriate people.
Yeah.
Need to try to do it, maybe legislator.
Yeah.
Little Rock. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Chief.
Tom, you good?
Good.
Thank you, sir.
We need to.
I'll make a
vote to
motion to approve the audit,
Accept it as presented.
accept the legislative audit report.
Got a motion in a second.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Meeker,
Yes.
Mr. Terry.
Yes.
Mr. Rainwater.
Yes.
Mr. Jeffrey.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Marsh, for your report. Skip 12, we got it covered. We tabled it.
Yes, sir.
13, police resolution to authorize purchase and trade in of police vehicles. Chief?
Mayor, council, Madam Clerk, Mr. Attorney. I know that when we passed the budget, y'all asked for a 90-day hold on purchases of capital expenditures, and I completely understand that. My ask is only this, that I go ahead and be allowed to order the cars because I don't anticipate them being here within the 90 days anyway. But it's a long time. The last car took about 3 months to get in, so I would like to be able, with y'all's blessings, to go ahead and order the cars at least.
I don't think ordering's the issue. It's when's the check get cut.
Well, that's the thing. I would say, I
Once you get the car?
think it'd be 2 to 3 months, but I'd make an order and liable to say, hey, they're here, come get them. I'm at the mercy of.
I think this has to do with public safety. I think this is one of those things we make amends for and let them go ahead and do it. I mean, I think this is important enough that we go ahead and at least order them.
They're all going to be painted silver?
Yes, sir. And and then when I asked for, when I presented my budget, I told y'all I had 2 cars that's down, and since then I have 3 cars that's down. So what I'm asking is, I'd be allowed to trade. I don't know if you got it in your packets, but there's 3 cars. The 3 cars that are down One's a 2011. It's got 85,000 miles on it. It's going to cost $7,500 to repair. The other one's a 2017. It's got 71,000 miles on it. It's going to cost $7,500 to repair. And then these numbers mean something here in a second. The last one's 2015. That's the one that just went down on us. It's got 90,000 miles on it. It's going to cost $9,500 to repair. All of these are the Chevy Tahoes with this fuel management system. There's a lawsuit in place right now. I don't know if it'll help us because these cars are almost 10 years old, but these, they haven't been as reliable, I would say. We did get an estimate on trade-ins for these vehicles. Let me find it.
Chief, I
Yes,
think you
sir.
said one was a 2011, but I think you really meant it was like on this, your sheet
Oh,
here, it
Unit
says
11, 2016.
2016.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I apologize. Unit 11, 2016. Yes, sir. The trade-in values for those vehicles, the Unit 11 is $5,700. The trade-in for the allowance for the 2017 would be $7,200. The trade-in for the 2015 would be $5,700. What I'm asking is for you to allow me to trade in these vehicles on an additional fourth vehicle, and I offset that cost with the drug task force money. It wouldn't affect my budget in any way. It wouldn't go up. I would pay for it in-house. I'm not asking for any other money. I'm just asking for you to allow me to purchase an additional fourth vehicle, and I'll offset the cost with the drug task force money. Mr. Tom hasn't probably looked at the drug task force money, so I had Miss Kristen look it up today. There was $16,000 that was dropped today that would cover the additional costs. Any
You have
questions? Yes,
Any other needs for that money?
I need these cars worse than
Anything else?
anything else.
I mean, what
This
would
is
you-
going to get me squared
Yeah.
away. My budget is, when I presented y'all the budget, I presented y'all the budget on my needs. I could come in here, I don't want to say that. I don't want to be disrespectful. When I presented my budget, I presented you with a budget that is needed at the police department. And they came to me, I say they, Mr. Tom and the mayor asked me to find a little bit to help. And I did. And it is the needs. Any questions that I didn't answer?
Chief, do you find that trading them in is way more valuable to us than selling them in a public auction?
I was around during those other auctions when we had them back here. I wasn't in charge of those, but I don't believe based on memory, I don't believe we got very much
I
for
don't think
them.
we did either. I
Like
think this
$1,200,
is way more-
$1,300, $1,500 on a good one.
Yeah, people are looking for a real bargain.
I think this is
Right.
the way to go.
Right.
So you're
Seems
better off
like-
getting them, trading them in then.
Yes,
I
sir.
make a motion, we adopt this resolution.
And
I'll
before,
second.
I apologize.
I go.
I apologize. The trade-ins would go to the dealership that has the state bid, which is Red River Dodge. It's on the state bid through the Department of Finance. I just wanted to clarify that. We're not going anywhere else, if that mattered, but I just wanted to clarify.
All four of them are going to be Dodge Durangos.
Dodge Durango, silver, yes, sir, with spotlights.
You got a motion in a second.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Meeker?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Ms. Rainwater?
Yeah.
Mr. Tedford?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Oh, you got the next one too. Chief, do you have the picture from today that you showed us?
Yes, sir.
Would you mind just for council's,
Yes, sir.
whatever, not approval necessarily, but just, I guess.
Well, y'all, maybe for the.
Well, maybe
maybe for-
he showed it. Chief brought, that's fine. Chief brought that to us to show us what the new design is.
This is my intent, and I got the blessing from the mayor. Assuming I get the blessing. The top one is just a reference so we could design that. I'll have one.
It's pretty classy looking.
I think it looks classy. I think the design's classy. On the back, it'll still have our logo.
So how many perps can you transport in one time?
There's plenty of
Two,
room back there.
depending on the situation. You got plans.
That's pretty good.
Oh,
I had plenty.
That's a good week.
questions or comments on that? Hates, dislikes?
Love it.
Thank you.
Well, I hate the Dodges, but that's up to
In
you.
God we trust is I.
Well,
I'm a
that's-
Chevy man, but I know that the Chevys have been up a little. That's what
Well,
gives
and
you
they're high.
problems.
They're on the state bid, but they're high.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chief, for that. So next item is also police janitorial contract authorization.
I apologize. I don't have it right in front of me. I gave it to Miss Charla.
Yeah, it's in my office.
Our cleaning lady has, going to be moving to Northwest Arkansas. We interviewed a new cleaning lady. It's a contract and nothing changed on the budget. It's still the 175 a week. And this is based on her fingerprints coming back and her passing a short, small background. But I cannot think of her name, and Patricia Holland. We've offered a contract employment with her to begin once that comes back with y'all's blessing.
The contract includes services performed each day, kitchen and lunchroom area, restroom areas, services performed monthly, and supplies. It talks about cancellation, where either party may terminate with the other party within 30 days prior to the date on which the agreement shall terminate. It looks pretty detailed.
Standard.
Did Mrs. Hanover not want to apply, or I'm just talking about for streamlining purposes.
I don't know. We leave that. I mean, I don't
I think there's a
I don't
conflict.
force him to do either way. So
Got you.
Get with you after the fact.
Never mind.
I didn't ask.
Understood.
This is the same as what you'd been paying. Is that right?
Ma'am,
This is the same as what you'd been paying before?
we added, I think the last year's budget was 150. We made it 175.
It just dawned on me. My bad.
I
know.
Yes.
Make a motion, we approve this contract.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the contract.
Thank you, sir. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Chief.
Is that Tim?
No.
Yeah, I think Rainwater beat me up.
Well, I
Rainwater beat me up.
got sidetracked.
And Tim.
I know it. Yeah. Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Meeker?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Rainwater?
Yes.
Mr. Tedford?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank y'all so much.
Thanks, Chief. Number 15, city clerk treasurer clarification of 90-day capital moratorium implemented at budget adoption.
Basically, I'm going to turn this over to Tom because I've been presented a check that was confusing to me out of IT, and it wasn't a capital expenditure, but it was for software. It was, sizable, something we were getting in addition to what we already have existing. And I just paused, and we agreed that we'd like y'all to clarify what you meant on your moratorium. Specifically, only capital expenditures, not capital improvement projects, not big ticket items.
In what you guys said in the meeting, when you approved the budget, you, at the very end of the meeting, said that you wanted to put 90 days hold on capital expenditures. But we categorize capital expenditures separate. Those are the large tangible assets that are not O&M critical. And there's reasons for the IT where the computer systems are end of life and they need to be upgraded to 11, and it has an impact to them being able to do their job daily. And you had all that explained to you when the IT people came during the budget review study session and justified why they needed that in there. So that wasn't the intent of any recommendation to hold off on the assets. The tangible assets, which we were talking about, are the large items like, do you need the truck this year? Can you do without it? Can you push it to next year, given the financial situation? All those items that were listed as capital expenditures listed in each of the department's budgets is what we were basically asking for the hold on to go back and review and say yay or nay on, specifically department by department over 90 days. Right now, there's probably one department that if they do all their projects, they would be in a cash flow crunch for sure. But all the other departments, based on the budget as it stands today, would be able to absorb those. But we didn't want to necessarily have everybody go out and buy all that stuff right away as a knee-jerk reaction, which they do, when they wouldn't be using them for, let's say, 6 months down the road. in the fund. However, that's totally up to you. You can put the moratorium, but don't put it on just to put a moratorium on that from a cash flow perspective, if that's the reason you're doing it. I was under the impression that you guys were wanting to go back and look at those items again and make a hard decision on whether they're to remain in there or not, and have the directors justify all of those individual items in there. What we didn't want to do is things that are not budgeted in that line item 67,610 for capital expenditures, because that's in their O&M. That's something that they need to daily operate from. Even though the dollar amounts are significant, there's already a built-in justification for those.
So is that what you meant?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, things that are mission critical,
Yes.
I would say go forth. I think the capital expenditures as they pertain to capital equipment,
Right.
that's what we wanted to go back and review. Yes.
And that's
What
what
we
we
agreed
thought. One of the things that was a debate was a contract for software for the payrock, or not the payrock, but the iWorks. Because there's a couple of departments that are needing that software in order to be more efficient, and that was
Yes.
explained during the budget process, and we didn't want to hold that up, but it's capital, and we didn't
Yeah.
think
It
that
just
was.
wasn't listed in
Wasn't-
capital expenditures. So we were like, wait.
Actually, 3 departments.
What do they mean?
So we're clear now.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
So capital expenditures only.
Right.
That line item. Not mission critical. though.
Which is everything you just
It just
said.
Yeah.
says the capital.
Vehicles and
It's the big,
equipment.
big item.
So this isn't a capital deal, but I think I see it now. We did take out some of that IT stuff that we were going.
Yes, the wiring.
Right.
I don't remember.
Oh,
Are you sleeping?
Capital
Whoa.
capital improvement projects.
Capital.
You didn't mention it as capital improvement projects. So there's already projects that are
Ongoing.
already going,
Yes.
and we didn't want to stop those. They're actually in it. Those carryover projects are there. And I didn't know, based on public safety, for instance, on the water side and parks and street, if they have a capital improvement project that absolutely necessarily is necessary that it be done, we didn't think that was what you were asking to be held up on either. We were thinking it more just the capital expenditures.
Yes.
Nice.
You got that checked
Is that
out?
applause for the
Man,
peanut
music to my
gallery?
ears.
I think that we got the clarification we needed. Thank you.
All right. Yes, thank you. That is all the agenda items. Next on the agenda is department reports and questions from council. We've got a few of them still here, so. Do you have any questions for these folks? Okay. Come to the podium, state your name and address.
5 minutes.
You got 5 minutes.
Are you on the clock?
Yes. I recently encountered an issue at a new construction residence that is not entirely addressed by code. It can be construed as allowed by building code. I should say electrical code. I would like to clarify it further in our own ordinance to follow closely along with Fort Smith. I can expand on the situation. I don't want to name any names, drag anybody through the mud. I think we've fixed the situation, but I would like to present an ordinance adding additional regulations to our local electrical codes. It could potentially be a matter of health and safety, potential fire hazards. I would love to be able to bring this to you as soon as possible, as it is an ongoing issue right now, to legally resolve this issue.
Okay. So we don't have anything on the books you're telling me that pertains to this situation.
Correct.
So do we have anything on the books that pertains to all those other situations that may not be covered by this ordinance, or, you know where I'm going with that? Kind of like what is Amendment 9 or Constitution? What I'm saying is, do we have anything that has the ability to stop the construction, the addition, the whatever?
I have that ability as the authority having jurisdiction over electrical installations, but it's better justified when I have an actual code section to
agree.
back it up with.
I
But
agree.
for the time being, that's how I've fixed the situation, is to go over and above the individual contractor to the developer and have stopped the project from continuing until this is resolved. But I would like to have the background in language.
So what the
adopted.
builder is doing, is it outside the code right now?
Well, that's the deal. He's saying we don't have any.
I think.
And when were the plans approved?
The plans are approved, but this isn't something that's put on the plans. So this is specific to wiring. We don't have a complete wiring diagram submitted with every new construction drawing. They just tell me where the outlets are going to be located on a house, not what size wiring or what gauge wiring they're going to run in the walls. So to add a little bit more context, they've started off in the panel with 12-2 wire, and then they've taken off from a light switch outlet box with 14 gauge wire on the same 12-2 circuit. That then requires that the entire circuit is rated at 15 amps. So they've derated the circuit down to 15 amps. In the panel, you only see 12-2 wire. So if there were ever an issue and you come back, you see 12-2 wire, you're going to put a 20 amp breaker on there. And you've got wire in the wall concealed that could potentially burn up.
So the wire in the wall doesn't go all the way to the panel, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, so they're pulling off of an outlet circuit, running lighting. And you can run 14-2 wire in-house. But there are certain circuits that require 20 amp services. So Fort Smith circumvented this whole issue in the NEC by just justifying that every branch circuit serving a 120 volt receptacle or an outlet has to be served by a 20 amp branch circuit. So that eliminates the potential to have 14-2 wiring in the wall for lighting tied in with a receptacle circuit. Yes,
Do
sir.
we have any kind of document that we can give the contractors that shows where local policy is more restrictive than the NEC?
This will be the first instance
Okay.
that the city has ever, not ever, since I have been in over this position, this will be the first instance of a local code being more stringent than state code.
Okay.
I've tried really hard to make whatever goes on in the state acceptable for Greenwood. It's easier for contractors and developers to come in and not have to get extra documents. But in this instance, for the safety of everybody, I think it's best that we implement this. I don't know if calling a special called meeting as soon as I can get this ordinance drafted and presented to you. Like I said, I think I've got it solved for now. If you want to wait for a month, I think we'll be okay. It's up to you.
Just make sure nobody's moving in when this thing's out of compliance. I mean, whatever.
It's still rough in framing right now. I mean, they've got months to complete it. I just don't want them to proceed forward. So,
And then later it could be fire hazard.
yeah, correct. So I guess that goes along with, if they continue to give me a hard time and they don't acknowledge the authority given to me by the state on this matter, I can request either the appropriate individual to call a special called meeting with this ordinance to be retroactive before the date of this permit.
And so it's hard for you to, spot when they're doing an extension, whatever, and doing it 14-2, you just really look at the panel and say, oh, there's 12-2 and it's all 20.
It's easy to spot because 14-2 is typically white, industry wide, and 12-2 is yellow. It's easy to notice, but code doesn't specifically disallow that because you can run that on a 15 amp circuit, on a 15 amp breaker. I apologize. That 12-2 wire can run on a 15 amp because your overall rating is based on that lowest size. So it's not technically illegal by code, but it has the potential to be a major hazard down the line. Or if that installer forgets that this was supposed to be a 15 amp circuit and puts a 20 amp breaker on it. There's a lot of what ifs and potentials with it that all lead to overrated circuitry in a house that's just not good. So I guess that's to be determined if that's all right with you, that I might have to call a special called meeting with whoever's appropriate to request that of.
If you've got this handled for the time being, I'd rather just see it at the next meeting to discuss.
Same. I think my question lies more in if they continue to give me a hard time and they say, we're going to go ahead and do this. I've got means in place to issue them citations, but since I don't have a formal code to back me up.
Otherwise, it'd have to have a 15 amp breaker in that panel box.
Yes.
Instead of a 20 amp.
Yep.
You just work on getting the ordinance done. If you're catching any flag, let us know. We'll call a meeting and we'll pass it as soon as we can. I love giving builders fits.
Travis, what's the restriction on special meetings and ordinances that affect the public being passed under emergency? You know, there's some kind of
She's right.
statute about that.
She's right.
About,
Tammany Hall kind of stuff.
yeah, I don't know. I don't remember.
I think the key words were public health, safety, and welfare, which he said it would probably need to be addressed in there, and emergency clause and all that stuff.
Like, it's prohibitive about passing something like
In a special
under,
call.
yeah, something like
I
that.
can look.
Because
I
the
can get back
public
to you.
doesn't have the right to know yet that it affects them. Something, yes, if you could look that up, make sure there's not something against that.
Even at a minimum, I don't know if a resolution would at least back me up for the time being if needed. That would just be the will of the council, right? So if at a minimum that could support my claim.
Yeah.
So,
Well
okay.
done.
You handle it like you're doing and see where we go.
That's the plan. Yeah.
You
Thank you.
can't carry a gun though.
Thank you, Hunter. Any questions or comments for anybody else? Department heads?
Hey, where's Jeff at tonight?
Jeff is sick. Called in today, this morning. Yes, sir.
We've transferred to them. We trained on them and we got certified and we traded the old ones in. I just wanted to thank y'all again for that. Again, that was bought with that grant from the Firehouse Subs grant. I did receive an email, unfortunately, today from the DOJ, and grants are they put a stop to them for right now, but hopefully they'll open back up. I just wanted to let y'all know that any dollar I can go after in grants, we'll go after, but right now they're just
on
hold. We'll see how that goes. But thank y'all again. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
If not, we'll get into council forum.
I was just noticing on the, in the budget, we eliminated all miscellaneous expense items, but there was one, in the general budget, there was that additional miscellaneous professional fee that wasn't omitted. Okay. 1150. It was on, page 15 of the document. It says additional miscellaneous professional fees.
Oh, no, we were taking away miscellaneous expense. They're budgeting an amount, but they detail the primary ones that are identifiable for sure and for their placeholder. But then it's almost like you're saying, well, how much office supplies are you gonna need? Well, I'm gonna need to buy this and this, but this is what I normally spend. That's a different miscellaneous expense. That is tied to a specific line item. But we had line items in there called miscellaneous expense. I don't know what it is, but I want to budget for it because I don't know what it is. And that's what we took out. Not the miscellaneous placeholders for a budgeted line item. They're just saying, they're just saying, well, we normally spend about 8,000. That's what it's going to run. Here's a bunch of what we think these are going to cost, but they're
Staples, paper clips, Post-it notes.
So we didn't take it down to the line and detail. We just said, they just said in their budget, and this is all the rest. Otherwise, that thing would be a narrative like what police do, because They just budget an amount and say it's for this, and this. And that's the way they would have gotten around that. But they were literally just budgeting a line called miscellaneous expense. And it wasn't tied to any line item. And it was like, well, in case we need it, well, I'm sure we could find a line item that would be suitable to put that. So it's very rare that you would actually have to go to miscellaneous for anything.
Did you say it's professional fees on ours?
Pardon?
What did you say it was professional
Yeah.
fees on? I think it's because we budgeted a little extra because we spent more for like drug testing and background checks this past year, so I think that we added in a cushion for that.
Because those are things that you really don't know. It's fluid.
Yeah.
Basically. That's why we put that in there, but the option to that would be just to list everything that possibly would be a category and not put any dollar amount there and say $8,000 or whatever. But that, I don't think that was your intention. Your intention was to take away, well, if you don't know what it is, it's
Right.
not in.
That's what I thought this one was too, I guess.
It's
legitimately miscellaneous.
legitimately miscellaneous, meaning they're not gonna take it down to that level of every little item. Yeah, we could throw it up into drug testing or whatever.
I think there was some reason, I was thinking to try to cushion for background.
Because those prices could change, those costs.
Well, it just depends on how many we have.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know the way
Well, not only could they raise the cost, but you could send one or you could send 10. Right. Right.
And then you have to hire somebody, so I can't tell you how many people are gonna get hurt this year.
None.
0 days.
Zero.
All
Okay.
right.
Keep them on the clock.
Anything else from count? Yes, sir.
Just one question, Hunter, on the electrical piece of that you're talking about, along with whatever you submit, could you get a copy of what Fort Smith presented? Like the change to their local ordinances?
Yeah,
we
so
can kinda
Fort
see-
Smith has the municipal code codification of their ordinances online, and underneath their building code section, they've got a trade standards, which outlines their mechanical, electrical, plumbing, any alterations or additions they've made to that specific code.
Okay.
So I've got electrical pulled up right now.
Okay, yeah, if we could get that electrical piece of it to look at.
Yes.
And that's what I was talking about, a document, as we go along, you say you got an NEC code, and then we can hand in this and say the city is more restricted in this one area.
Yeah, that would be the intention moving forward. Whenever someone applies for an electrical permit, I could hand in this and say, just for your reference, this is a standard that we've changed or amended from our code.
All right, very good.
Tom, since we're talking about the 90-day moratorium and budgets, can we try to go ahead and set a quarterly budget study session before that?
Yeah.
90 days.
What kind of date you got, Charlotte, for a study session?
You want a study session on
Budget.
what?
The quarterly.
Oh, on the budget?
Yep.
Do we have them in we have one set up for March in our thing already? In our calendar we posted at the first of the year? Or at the end of last year? I
don't
believe
think
we do have one.
Set aside any quarterly, but they were effective last year, so I'd like to do them.
He was going to the other day.
I don't think there is.
Tim said he likes Thursdays.
I'm trying to think of this anywhere.
Except for the second.
Do you have access to that calendar?
I see, it's in the agenda
If we
packet.
got one set, we don't have to.
I can see.
Okay.
I do have.
Got to be in March sometime, right? So because of the end of the 90 days would be.
We didn't approve it. We
think there was some
didn't
dates
approve
in
it till end of January, so technically January, February.
I want to take a second to commend, as I did it again this morning.
Technically.
I don't want to say it too much because I don't want to get the big head, but I want to commend the department heads for whittling at their budget. Chief mentioned it earlier. He had a great budget, but we asked him to do a little more and he did. So they've all done that. And we did that with the general too, Danielle. So thank you guys for doing that. Helped a lot.
March 20th.
Is that in there?
I'm throwing March 20th out. Fire away.
That's not the spring break. I don't know what the spring break
No,
is.
it's the following week.
Spring break's the 24th through the 28th.
Yeah, see where it's a vacation.
I got it documented.
That's
I
right.
think we discussed it, but I don't think we ever set a date.
March 20th sounds good to me.
That'd be that'd be towards the end of the first quarter.
As a Thursday,
Yeah.
Right.
What time?
7. 6:30, 7.
After normal
Gotta be
business
after
hours.
5.
At least 6:30.
There was a,
6:30?
once upon a time, there was a planning commission, but it looks like it was canceled for that. Was that just something on the calendar from old? Sonny? I have a canceled planning commission meeting that night, which if it's canceled, that's fine. But of course, you could always go into the next room like you did the other day.
Do they usually meet Thursday?
Sir? Okay. So March 20, everybody?
6:30. Speak now. Or? March 20th.
Yep. Place your order.
Financial study session or financial review? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I guess so. It's not really a budget. Are you looking at budget or financial review?
It's a
Or
quarterly
both?
financial review.
Quarterly.
I think both,
Quarterly.
yeah.
I thought it was a quarterly deal.
You want to just call it the quarterly financial review like we do
Sure.
3 times a year?
Yeah.
6:30, you said?
Is that good with you, Tom?
Anything's good.
He lives here. What are you talking
It
about?
won't officially be the quarterly because it's
Right.
the in March.
Oh.
You don't or
I
you
just do a
do?
day now. We can do
No,
April,
it's
anything
fine.
but that.
He said you just can't call it quarterly because it's in March.
Ow.
I just
Well,
suggested
March is
before the
quarter.
90 days.
So, repeating what was said.
Uh-huh.
But if you're gonna do that, my question was, are you asking all directors?
I think it would behoove them to be here. Otherwise, behoove.
Meaning if the monies look like they're above ahead of schedule, maybe the tax revenues have made a big bounce. Maybe we can take off a moratorium. Maybe some of you guys might be able to spend some money. I guess is kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, or if there's something on there that looks like promising that might be cut, there might be additional justification that may need to
Y'all,
be
When you
given
get
to
here
keep
Friday
it.
morning, you'll be like,
I
what?
know y'all.
Yeah.
are
Look,
So
they're all
going
shaking-
into
They're all shaking
April,
their heads.
then what about April the 10th on a
Yeah.
Thursday?
Yeah, but it's a
I mean,
budget.
April the 10th.
We're not good on
Thursday,
March?
So we can get the
Well,
3 months in. If
Is this a
he wants to try to
different
get
meeting altogether?
full 3 months in, so we can have a look at that. So you can give us make it a quarterly financial update.
I'll have a
Budget update.
suntan by then, that's fine.
With April the 10th work, folks, if it's still keep it at 6:30, Steve,
Yep.
April the 10th instead of the.
would that give you enough time to come up with a,
Well, here all of a sudden you're available on Thursdays. What's happening?
Uh-huh.
It's not gonna be easy. It's never easy.
Oh,
I have to make plans for it.
Okay.
would that give you enough time, Tom? To come up with a,
April 10th then?
April 10th.
The 20th out of March?
Yeah.
Oh.
We're going to do it on another Thursday.
okay.
April 10th.
April 10th, 6:30. Look, it's magically on my calendar.
That's not good.
Okay. Thank you for your due diligence. Thank you for your due diligence. It's already on my calendar. Well, you're not the captain diligence, but you're close. Okay.
Yeah.
We're good for that date? Anything else? Quorum. Council quorum.
Forum.
Council forum. What did I say? Quorum?
I thought we were doing that.
We have a quorum.
I think you already were on that.
That's what I'm asking. If you have anything else. Yes, we are there.
I'll let AC drum up something before I make a motion to adjourn.
Question, what
Sir,
Traffic light.
utilities along,
relocation of gas line,
okay.
correct?
I've had a lot of questions about what's
Center
going on
Yes, sir.
down Center Street.
I was asking if we were widening it.
We talked about this where this morning, that kind of got lost in the flux between certain department heads.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're talking about Center Street. You're talking about Main.
Oh, I heard Maine.
Center, all the flags you see on
Yeah.
center is a relocation of the gas line. You go ahead and talk about Main Street. Yes. Yeah, the front yard.
They're ready to put a gas line there, and there has to be a change order. And instead of moving the gas line, the idea is to do a sewer line project. So it's just a manhole that they're having to shift to the east, I believe. In order to do that, they have to get an easement from that property owner. And supposedly, we're gonna have that easement within 1 or 2 days. As soon as that's done, we will have it signed.
So kudos to Casey today. We were talking about it in our meeting. I asked if anybody had an update, and as you know, we've had a change of the guard in sewer.
Vernon Wilkie.
Vernon was, bless his heart, he witnessed his first department head meeting this morning. I don't know if he'll come back at all. But Vernon was there and he did not, I asked the question of where we are on that because there are dozers sitting in people's front yard and it's a mess. Vernon didn't know, as he wouldn't because he just came in. Nobody seemed to know. So Casey offered to call because it's a park project. He called engineer didn't know, Crawford Construction didn't know. So then he called engineer Hawkins and Weir and got that information. So it takes a village. So we got an answer. So we're holding Hawkins and Weir to that, get that easement signed, clean that mess up. Okay.
Everybody knows that April 7th, we have a regular council meeting. So 3 days prior to that, April 10th, right?
Beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah, beautiful.
I'll make a motion we adjourn, Mr. Mayor.
Well, we got equipment still on the new sidewalks, I'm saying.
So real quick, we have, what'd you ask?
Got equipment parked on the new sidewalk.
I noticed that and I've asked, I don't remember who I asked, maybe Hunter, I'm sure he's done it, to make sure or go check that out and see what kind of damage, if any's been done. Yeah, they've been going around it all for 2-3 weeks or whatever. So hopefully, no doubt. Have you seen any?
I haven't seen any damage, but I mentioned it to Jeff that he should probably
Yeah.
look at surveying the entire length of that side.
Right. Yeah, before they leave town, we want to, I'm a little, nothing against the gas company, nothing against anybody, but we don't know. These utility companies show up in our town and start planting flags and start doing what they're doing. We don't know. They don't come to us. It's as if they don't have to. Maybe they don't. I don't know, but it seems a little odd. So I had to ask. Well, the first thing I noticed was not the flags. First thing was they're painting down the middle of center,
Right.
which is interesting. Nobody's ever done that, to my knowledge. So we started inquiring and found out it's a
state highway.
That's true. And so maybe they would have asked RDOT and maybe they did. And RDOT went, oh, I don't care. It's not ours. So we inquired and that's what's happening. It's a big, big project. So yeah, we're going to check before they leave town, what kind of damage, if any's done.
But I also want to tell Casey is your video you put out on the splash pad looks good.
Over
You went up there and
over 2,000, I think. now.
sets, shows everything that's the process that's been done and what's
8,000,
next.
8,600.
Going viral.
Look at you.
Mayor, on
Yes,
the new street over there by the Mercy Clinic,
Yes.
I saw where they sodded along the street, I guess like one length of sod.
Okay.
But down there on
Westwood Drive or?
I guess so, that connects Mercy
Yeah.
over there to, and I was just wondering, from there down to the ditch is just, bare. And I didn't know if there was anything that they hydro mulch, kind of like the,
Yeah, I'm sure. Like
RDOT's doing on theirs.
the
you know, to
bypass.
kind of prevent the
I
runoff.
would hope so. I thought you were asking why isn't it finished? So we have a meeting. That road is not complete, as you probably
Right.
noticed. So we have a meeting. Sonny got us a meeting on the 13th to discuss that and try to get that squared away so that road can be finished. But yeah, we'll check into what you're asking about. It's on the trail side of it, I guess, obviously.
Well, I just thought on the, I don't know if it's a trail side or not. It seemed like it was on the hospital side or clinic side. It seemed like
south side
it was
of
all bare
Westwood Drive.
except for that one side, south side. Yeah, that's what it'd be.
Okay.
They only sod the landscaping buffer between the ditch and
No.
the roadway.
Okay.
They have not sodded the ditch yet because that ditch is yet
Waiting to get the, yeah. So Vernon did offer a little bit of, he said what happened was, and I will try to explain it. He knows, and that's important that he knows. So we've got to figure that out there. So yeah. Yeah. Storm drain running into the surf. Yeah. But we'll make a note and make sure that that gets done before they're out of town.
All right.
And
Thank you.
hopefully we won't destroy any more trees.
Right.
Again. Anything else? I got a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. Thank you, everybody.
Let's do.
Oh, man, I was 10 minutes off.
It's always a good time to get out of here.
I don't